As set forth in item, sorry about that. Motion to return to public session.
Second.
Roll call. Call to order.
Here.
Dr. Floor?
Do we have the virtual set up yet?
Dr. Floor?
She didn't come on? Okay. Absolutely.
Mrs. Facillo? Here. Mr. Buckley?
He went and saw his son. They got a presentation over in the auditorium.
Mr. Lebechi?
Football. Here.
Mr. Kim?
Here.
Mrs. LaPresti? Here. Mrs. Demori?
Here. Thanks, Deb. As set forth in item G, opening statement on the agenda and board policy, the board welcomes public participation. Hopefully some members of our community join us tonight for that. And if they do, there are two opportunities for the public to speak. The first at the beginning of the meeting for agenda items only, and the second is at the end of the meeting for other items. Please state your name and address when making a public statement. Keep your presentation within 3 minutes. Thank you. Would you please rise for the flag salute? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation. All right. We're going to start tonight with a presentation about financial literacy and graduation requirement proposal from Ms. Lauder. Great to see you. Thank you.
Am I good? Okay. So you want to, okay. If you can refer to, I believe it's a pink sheet in your folder this evening. It is titled Financial Literacy Proposal. So I'm going to kind of walk you through it and provide some color and then provide a little bit of a question and answer session to maybe clarify any points or questions that you may have with the proposal. So in the state of New Jersey, financial literacy is a graduation requirement for all high school students. Currently in Holmdel, this is a 1-semester class that most students take during their 9th grade year. With the class sizes that we have, the number of sections that are needed to teach this range anywhere between 9 and 11, depending on the size of the class. So this pretty much takes up a business teacher's entire teaching schedule. So we have, of our 3 business teachers, essentially 1 business teacher is dedicated in their schedule to teaching financial literacy. It is split up between 2 different teachers, but the proportion of classes is about equivalent to 1 teacher's teaching load. Another challenge that we've been facing is we have several students who go into school counseling every year and say, I'd love to be able to take this course, but I have to fit in financial literacy. And maybe they didn't take it their 9th grade year. Maybe they're waiting until their junior year, but because it is a requirement, that course is something that is providing a hurdle for them in order to have access to a dual enrollment class, an AP class, or simply an elective that they really, really want to take that's going to further their education of something of which they're passionate. So we reached out to see what other area districts are doing, and I've listed a couple nearby locations and others that are similar to us in demographic status. And you can see many of them have some sort of an in-person or a hybrid offering. And then I kept digging a little bit more, and I found some other districts who had come up with a way to provide a free option that takes this course off of the student's in-person requirement and shifts it into either a summer course. Some schools are doing a model where it's running as an overload course. And in all of these schools, obviously, this is an option for the students, not a mandate. So what we are recommending to do is to continue with our in-person course options. So I want to just be very clear on that because there was some concern about this within the survey. We are not removing the in-person option for students who wish to take that option. We are simply adding an online asynchronous option that would be free via Khan Academy. So the way this would work is when the students graduate from SATs as 8th grade or when they join us, they would be enrolled into a Khan Academy course that I would manage on the back end. If they decide to take the course, I can see their progress. I can see how they move through the course and their mastery of the material. If they decide not to take the course, and do a different pathway, we would note it in a different pathway. So that's one option. So that would be free and available to every student. Does anybody have any questions about the asynchronous before I move on to another option?
Gwen, how is it free?
Khan Academy is free.
I know Khan Academy is free, but so they're just adding this to
Khan Academy has developed a financial literacy course that is highly aligned and actually hits all of the standards of the New Jersey financial literacy standards. Okay. A second option that we are looking to introduce, and this is kind of a twofold, like one kind of feeds the other. So if we are able to have enough students take the financial literacy course who opt to take the financial literacy course online, that would free up a business teacher to bring in a course called AP Business with Personal Finance. That is a year-long course, but it is an AP level course for students who are interested in pursuing business, and it is part of the AP Kickstart program. So we are intending to still bring in those, to bring in that AP, even if we don't have the financial literacy in the summer. We're going to try to finagle that if we have to, but obviously freeing up a teacher in the business department's schedule with the Khan Academy option allows us to bring in this additional AP course with no additional need for staffing.
I absolutely love that option.
Okay.
I hope that happens. An AP course towards business and personal finance. I mean, every kid should be all over that.
If that's your passion.
Even the
yeah.
financial literacy.
But
Well,
so the
it's
financial literacy.
necessary for adulthood, right? Like financial literacy
Correct.
is where
So
most
every
students are lacking.
student right now has to take the financial literacy components. It's just this AP course would be a full year course,
Awesome.
but woven within that AP course satisfies the 2.5 credits of financial literacy.
Understood. So if they have
Okay.
the passion, I got you.
Yeah. And then, so those are the two additional options that we're looking to bring in. On December 2nd, Dr. Harrod sent out a survey. Our primary audience or our only audience was the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade families, just because we wanted to get responses from the people that would be most directly affected by this change. Asking a 4th grade family what they wanted to do with their high schooler, in 5 years is a little outside of the realm of, foresight. So based on the results that we've gotten, and yes, it is a voluntary response survey. So really only people who feel strongly one way or the other are going to be responding. And as of the last time I updated the document, 71% of the respondents said they would at least consider both of those options. And so the 29.1% would like to keep the in-person option for their child, which I'd like to repeat is not going away and will still be available.
Just a quick history lesson on this. How long, and I'm sorry if I missed this, but how long has New Jersey required the financial literacy credits? Like this has been going on for quite a while. This isn't
Quite a
anything
while.
new. All right. So we vote. Okay.
Yeah.
And has our financial literacy program evolved recently, or it's, obviously it modernizes?
Yeah, it's been modernized, and we use resources that are available and considered to be some of the most robust resources to, really help our students.
I hear favorable things about the course.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Chris, I can tell you for years, I know Elliot Cohen's been one of the teachers. Then he morphed into like a seminar and other good stuff. Kids love him. But I remember when we started doing the surveys of the seniors, the outgoing surveys years ago, the biggest comment, I remember, we would have the raw comments. One of the biggest ones I always saw was, I'm a 9th grader. Why am I taking a financial literacy course? I don't have a checkbook. I don't have a credit card. I don't have a job. And a lot of things in the financial literacy course was how to manage a checkbook, how to deal with a credit card, understanding what credit means, understanding what debits and credits might be, and all those different things. So a lot of times, but meanwhile, 80 or 90% of your students in those classes were freshmen.
Yeah.
I remember Scott, you remember a kid, Haroon Sheikh, or Haroon was our class president guy, senior. I remember he was a senior in that class,
Yeah.
driving and everything else, but he was the lone senior, super smart kid, just waiting to senior year to take it. But it becomes an albatross because you have to take it.
Right.
So here he was, second semester, senior year, going, I have to take this to graduate. And now at least it's another
And I have
option.
no other option except to take it in person.
And he was wildly smart, 7, 8 AP courses. This was a waste of his time. And Elliot Cohen knew it and took care of him and whatever, but this is a very
Yeah,
good.
but I never see it as a waste because they could be wildly
Well,
smart, but
You know what I mean?
financial
It
literacy is
was,
a whole new ballgame. And also my response to the students is be proactive, learn about it before you have the checkbook.
yeah, but it just, for a lot of these kids, they were saying it's not relevant to my life
Well,
right now. 11th grade would be nice,
But
but
it will be.
yeah.
So it's actually a good segue. So going back to the Khan Academy, the online asynchronous option is only for the first 2 years of their school. If they don't finish the online asynchronous option by their junior scheduling meeting, which happens during the spring of their sophomore year. Let me say that again. So if they don't finish the course by their junior scheduling meeting, which is the spring of their sophomore year, they will automatically be enrolled in the financial literacy course as a junior. So if they don't utilize either of the two options, they will be required to take it in their junior year, which, to Mr. Reddy's point, pushes the course a little further toward when they might be ready to think about college loans, getting a car, and any, independence from their parental units.
Although that's such a tough year from a college admission acceptance, like that's the capstone year of, trying to get your best courses in there and all the APs so your college applications look as good as they can, and having to shoehorn in a financial literacy course that's not that challenging or demanding. It's just eating up a big chunk of their time.
That's a
which is-
good point. I'll speak
know,
with Ms. Rizzatello about that.
but
and
it's-
See if we can.
you gotta
come
get it
up with
done.
Yeah.
So first of all, I'm all on board because at our CNI meeting, this was discussed, and I think we were actually going to wait until the next time to have you present, and we were like, no, this is great, go forth. So here you are. But I guess my question as far as the AP portion of it is that I'm not a proponent of freshmen taking AP courses. That's just my, so I feel like we're pushing early the AP course, which makes me a little hesitant. That being said, it is what it is. But I'm thinking that you might have current freshmen now that are taking financial literacy because it is generally a freshman course. That maybe later, if they want to take AP business, they're not, according to this, it's only going to be open to 9th and 10th graders.
So College Board is pitching this course as a 9th and 10th grade course. So we are getting that guidance from College Board.
Is there a version for 11 and 12 graders?
That's my point, is like you might have somebody that's already taken financial literacy, but want to take AP business, right? Because they're applying for business or finance in college and as a major.
I'm not going to say we won't allow it because essentially what it means is that both courses can't count toward their financial literacy. Like you don't double dip, right? So, and you wouldn't need to satisfy it twice.
Right, but if I'm just thinking that perhaps when doing the program of studies, if this goes forth, that there be a secondary, like if space available,
Yes.
upperclassmen
And I
would
think-
be,
yes.
able to, because as of right now, if written as proposed, it's only open for 9th and 10th graders.
Yes.
So just in case there's somebody that's currently already taken it that next year would like to get in it, that we would at least, I'm all for, obviously, the 9th and 10th graders need to get priority if they're using this as their 2.5 credits. However, if space is available, with knowing the population that we have, so many kids go for business and finance. I think a lot of kids are going to want it, not just the freshmen, but freshmen and sophomores, although they should get priority based on what we're trying to do here.
Right
So-
now, we had such a demand for the courses in the business class that we are not giving financial literacy to all of the 9th grade class right now. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I think we're only running 5 or 6 sections of.
That's a good problem to have. The
That's it,
demand is
yeah.
there. I did like seeing that.
Yes, so that's one of the reasons where we were like, well, we cannot offer this elective that these kids are pushing to get in, this entrepreneurship elective, or we can come up with an alternate solution, which many other districts have that may
Now,
help
this
us.
is great, and I love being it's a creative way to build the AP or dual enrollment, like all of those higher end while still satisfying what we need to do. So
We'll need to do something about that demand because now we have entrepreneur club for fourth, fifth, and sixth graders. Those students are gonna be ready to go at ninth grade. I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
But real quick, Kim, you said you don't want to jump the gun. I didn't quite understand that. Is that not jump the gun to introduce an AP course for financial literacy? Or
just, yeah, I mean, I think that there's pressure, like and you know, there's been a lot of pressure. There's some pressure sometimes of, well, if there's two courses right now, I think it's two AP courses available as freshmen, maybe it's even three now. I think maybe it's three. You know, there's pressure to do those and
But here's my, well, first off, if this went through, would this be possibly available AP course next
Year.
school for ninth and 10th graders?
Yes.
Okay, so here's my thought on that. When we talking about diversity and all that good stuff, I think that a lot of the AP offerings are math, reading, and language. Whereas now, a student who's not getting the opportunities in those areas has an opening here because there's very,
math.
it's,
This is
it's
math
missing.
course.
Actually, the guidance from College Board is that the prerequisites are that a student is able to read and comprehend a college level textbook.
How do we determine that?
That would be probably pull from their reading and comprehension scores that we would have.
So typically, if a student was eligible for an AP math, they'd be eligible for this, and then vice versa if they weren't eligible.
I wouldn't say math. I would say it'd more be
Yeah.
literacy and.
Yeah, so the students, I'm sorry to interrupt, Ms. Lauder. So I think students that, for example, qualify for our AP World course in freshman year,
Yeah,
you know, or maybe our AP Environmental Science, because it's also very text-based, would probably be a similar
This-
support. Maybe
says-
slightly more inclusive.
AP Kickstart. So it's catered to your concerns perhaps about it being, it's their first AP ed. So maybe
Correct.
it's, I'm sure it's rigorous.
It's a
but
lower level. Is that what we're trying to
Because not all
say?
courses
but
are
that's what I'm
pretty.
saying. I feel like it could offer certain students who may not be, phenomenal at math, but are very business oriented. I mean,
Yeah.
some of the best business people in the world were C students, right? That's a known thing.
Yeah.
So at least it gives those kids an option to say, hey, I could finally get into an AP class. And, I know a couple kids personally who love business at this age, and that would be great. So hopefully, withstanding what the prerequisites are, I would love to see something like this go through and provide more options for students that might not fit the regular boxes of what AP typically is.
Gwen,
So-
knowing from last year, I know, my son was, he had a career concentration in business,
Mhm.
as did a lot of kids. This would obviously fit in for that.
Absolutely.
And I know a lot of the kids, especially by 11th grade, even 12th grade, they're still looking for additional courses. And if they can get more, especially if they're going to be a business major in college or whatever, this is only going to help A, for the applications, and B, just to learn more. So when you go to college, more prepared. But I knew what Kim was saying. I remember a conversation at, in these meetings about a push back in the day, advanced place in US history. A lot of the kids, ninth graders were taking it, and some were getting overwhelmed. And it was the pressure of, I need to take an AP course, I can take it. And then I think we switched it. Now I think APES was a little, I guess that's environmental science, but I don't know if we moved it or whatever we did.
Yeah, A
but
push
it
was
was-
like I think an 11th grade course.
Yeah, because they found out a lot of the freshmen were getting smoked by it. And it was like, okay, it's great you want to do it, but you weren't ready, or get into high school first. So this is, I like
But
this.
here's my response and my debate on the whole pressure thing, right? Who's creating the pressure? Is the student creating pressure? Is the parent creating pressure?
Both.
Okay.
It depends, I guess. But I'm just saying, it was a conversation and, and I guess the administration made the move of moving it or whatever. So, but
No, great comments. Are we done with that already?
Yeah.
Well, it was great.
great.
Anybody else have any comments?
Gwen, did you look, one of my comments was, that AP microeconomics, right, also fulfills the financial literacy piece. Do we not allow that here?
When I looked at, there are some districts that do that, but when I looked at the alignment, it would not something that I was comfortable with, signing off that, we're talking about personal finance versus micro and macroeconomics. I mean, yes, there are districts and several of them on this sheet do offer AP micro and macro, but to look at the alignment, it just felt a little forced. So, and additionally, from a compliance standpoint, a lot of our students wait until their 11th and 12th grade year to take AP macro, AP micro. And so to push this off until, and actually it's mostly seniors that are in that course, but to push that requirement off until their senior year is a little concerning as well, because now if they don't get it, you could be looking at not graduating. So I'd really rather not pull that.
And those are two of the harder. I know both of my boys took it, macro and micro. They were very glad when those courses were over because those were probably two of the most challenging courses they had in their 4 years for sure. Great teacher. We have a great teacher
Yeah.
for it, but still just wildly hard. Help for college. I know this.
My question is actually maybe for you and Dr. Lamoglia. So I'm thinking special ed, right? So this is a mandated course.
Mhm.
So special education students, are they going to be basically like, first of all, is there in-class support for these
Yes.
classes?
Yep.
Okay, and so they can feasibly have like, it'll
They
be,
also will have the option.
and well, yeah, I guess they would have the option, but many might opt just to junior year, isn't my guess, right? Like, we're not moving them, like, it would still just be,
But honestly,
they don't do it
the
online.
great thing about Khan Academy is that it's a mastery-based course. So let's say I take Unit 1 test and I get a 40 on it. I can go back, look at the material,
Okay.
and I can take it again.
Okay,
But what we do know about our students is that they do enjoy the in-person class.
yeah.
So we will have that available for them.
Thank you, Ms. Lauder. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, we're moving on. Let's keep it rolling. Questions or comments from the public on action items only? I guess the calendar looks good. I got to say, I'm quite surprised with all the kickback we get with the calendars over the years that here we are with the proposed on the agenda and no one's even here to talk about it. So I guess you did a great job putting together two options, Dr. Casco, and thank you. All right, action item. No, you want to throw something out there?
Well, no, just that'll be the first item under old business. So
Yeah.
whenever you're
Yeah,
ready to
and we'll
team me.
discuss it.
All right. No, of course. I was just commenting that I expected, people always want
appreciate
to talk about the calendar and no one's here. Action items, we have none. Carlos is happy. All right, BOE liaison reports. Okay, the old liaison report. Okay, nice. How'd it go?
That's a wonderful meeting to go to, actually. Yeah.
There's no shots fired.
No, that's everyone's just updating. They were curious about what's happening with our teacher negotiation and things along those lines. And I express what's out there publicly. But outside of that, it seems like our facilities all across Holmdel are being widely used, and not a lot to report back. But those people are very pleasant people. So thank you, Recreation Committee.
Awesome. Thanks, Ren. And thanks for going. Kim, do you have anything for CPAC?
CPAC did not meet this month and will be meeting in January.
Okay. And the BOE, the TC, we're still waiting for them to officially, I guess, put on or approval of the SLEO contract for 3 years, which would be nice to just check that box going into next year and focus on bigger things.
I think they said January 20 or
That's
December
okay.
22nd, right?
So the aim, speaking to the township attorney, was that he get us a draft by this week so that hopefully it can be on the agenda for approval next week. But I have not received the draft yet.
Yes, and thank you for the update from our mayor and deputy mayor, not from our BOE liaison on that one, but we did have the updates there.
But they did say last night at the township committee, I know you were tuning in, but they did publicly commit to around 250. I don't know if it was exactly 250, 245. They committed to a shared service agreement of 245,000 from Vonage pilot.
Yes, I was going to mention that.
When that goes through,
So
if
we'll-
and when that goes
So,
through.
so we'll be discussing that later as well as new business to promote that from a BOE perspective. But yeah, it'd be nice that we'll be whole again in that number. Thanks, Kim. All right, so board subcommittee reports. Anybody have anything for December?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, so we had a CNI meeting on November 18th. And some of the things that we spoke about, we discussed dual enrollment, and they're going to be, as reported, we had 104 students last school year, 24-25, that took advantage of the dual enrollment from both Brookdale and in-house. And they are working on numbers for this year, at least through the first semester, because some things are only a semester course. And so we just kind of reviewed that. We talked about as per Ms. Lepresti's request, we talked about textbooks versus digital textbooks. And we have a list, basically each school prepared a list of kind of what's there. It was actually very interesting to see how old some of our textbooks are, really old. Like from when I was here, old. And, but generally speaking, that the beauty of the digital textbooks is that, number one, you don't have to, they're cheaper and because of the print of it, but then also you don't have to update every however many years. So, but they're still looking at fees. So like it's an ongoing conversation.
Awesome. I think we need to get back to like handwriting, reading, highlighting, note taking. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I know.
There's
Call me
definitely-
crazy.
No, it's not crazy. There's a lot of press going on right now about the laptops and the screen time that's happening in schools. We all
Yep.
know it happens at home. And yeah, I think that it's kind of like almost like the balance project, right, Scott?
It
It's
is.
like,
Yeah.
you can't just go all in on this whole digital world and these kids lose out on so many development skills that have been going on since the cavemen were around, right?
Yeah. So then going also kind of near that was, we talked about digital platform usage. And a list has been created, by each school. No, not by each school, just for the district. And as far as, things like Linkit, or Freckle and Newsela, like all, like kind of everything that we're using. And then they're still gathering. And this was kind of dual fold, not just for C&I purposes, but also for budget and
BNF.
finance.
Yeah,
right.
Talked about that in BNF.
Yeah, so looking at the cost factor and then asking the companies for usage data, right? So just because we have something and we're paying for it doesn't mean it can be, that it's being utilized.
Yeah, it was kind of like a return on investment kind of
Correct.
concept,
So
right? So
That's still ongoing.
especially given the
Collective.
financial challenges, so.
Yeah, the financial literacy proposal that we just heard about was discussed and given enthusiastic go ahead. We talked about executive functioning rubrics. So I kind of brought to the table my district in primary uses executive functioning rubric attached to the report card. And so that way it's like a mindful practice of teachers kind of being, and then therefore parents seeing where those executive functioning deficits are. So executive functioning, just, so everyone knows, it's the cognitive processes enabled to plan, organize, manage time, initiate and complete tasks, regulate emotions, and solve problems. So, and, it varies, like it might be a one-step direction for kindergarten, and then it goes up to two-step and then three-step directions. And are you able to be assigned a project and complete it in small steps over time? And we have seen that it's a deficit. And over time, we had the ACEs program brought to SATS, but with constraints of time and budget and everything else, things like that have been cut. But the reality is, in my opinion, is that it needs to be looked at in the primary where we can still mold and teach these skills so that moving forward to Indian Hill and beyond, they already have these executive functioning skills. So we had a discussion on it. We're looking for examples from other districts other than mine to see what we can do and perhaps bring that to Holmdel. There was also a proposal at SATS for the empathy, equality, entrepreneurship mission. It was a proposal which sounded amazing. It's called TEAM. And it's, again, like, it's a nonprofit mission allowing to work with free resources and teaching social entrepreneurship and empathy-based leadership. And it was an awesome proposal from SATS. So hopefully more to come on that. We also had a proposal for Bayshore Medical Center program, the Healthcare Leaders of Tomorrow. And it's basically a mentorship program with our high school and Bayshore Community Hospital, which is, again, just an amazing thing for something that's right here in our backyard. Allowing students to explore career options, gain skill development, work, make a network of well, no, network
Mhm.
and then gain, personal growth just for themselves. So again, just we are, even, and this is something that's not necessarily, these are things that a lot of these things are no cost to the district and yet we're growing. It's really nice. And then last we came, so as per Mr. Reddy's request, and I will send this out, my document that I wrote tonight is the one that's going to go post, but I have some links that Mr. Howard had for us in the committee, which I will share out to everyone else. We have the class sizes and the enrollment for the different electives and all the courses at the high school and everything. So we have all of that data that we are now kind of have a baseline so that we can look at class size trends and staffing needs as we're looking at the budgeting process and, where we might be able to collapse some courses or can we merge courses and things like that. So there's a lot in here that, we're looking at from a C&I perspective, but also for budget and finances as well, if there's any, cross relation. So that was our C&I meeting and our plan is to meet next in January.
All right. And thank you for leading the CNI committee. How many ad hoc meetings did you guys have this year?
We did November and September, so every other month. So September and November for this school year.
No, but all year since the beginning. Was it once a quarter?
We did 3.
So so with the first time we met with me was April.
Yeah.
And then we did September and now November.
3.
And April was way too, there was too much time in between. So now we're doing it on a bi-monthly.
Okay.
No.
I'm
not
just thinking
every-
foreshadowing for next year, if you did like one a quarter as an ad hoc and kept the committee of the whole, that it sounds like you brought great beneficial updates in. And I'm just curious if you did meet monthly on a subcommittee structure, would that be unnecessary?
Say it again.
If you went to a subcommittee structure and met monthly as a CNI,
Mhm.
would that be overkill? Would that be too much versus once a quarter? That's
think-
good feedback for you all to talk about. when
Yeah.
you're deciding on. your
I
meeting
think
structure.
that this every other month is about this was a hefty agenda, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Howard, it was, we power through a lot. And so I can't, I wouldn't once a quarter, is every other month a quarter? No, it's
Every other
so I
three,
think,
every other 3 months.
yeah, that's too long. That's too long. So every other month, that is still hefty. But in an attempt to, be mindful of all of our time, the every other month is.
Okay.
is-
Well, I appreciate you leading it. And my thought process is too, being a community member on the other side of the aisle next year, with as much as we know.
Because you're not going to stay away from us.
Well, as much as we know is going to go on with the Board of Ed next year, there's a lot going on. I'd hate to see the public lose that second opportunity to come meet the board because we went to a subcommittee. So, I won't be here for the vote, but I hope that it sticks to committee of the whole, because I think it's so important more than ever next year to offer that second public meeting to our community. There's going to be so much going on. And, a lot of things are on the line, and I think they deserve the right to have that second. It's hard enough for people to make one meeting. So it sounds like it could be balanced out where the ad hocs would work and be beneficial. So that's just my, 2 cents on that.
Well, so this is a committee of the whole.
Yeah.
How many people are here?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
How many
If
people are
we
on-
had, if we had, when courtesy busing is on the line, Kim,
I'm just.
we don't have anything on the line right now.
14 people are watching.
Things will be on the line next year a lot more than they are now. And people will say, man, I wish I had that other opportunity to go.
I don't know, with as much as information that has been, I'm not saying one way or the other. I think I've spoken freely. I think
that's
it should be a hybrid type model. I don't want to.
I'm just leaving my parting comments.
But you've sent out how much information. We are in crisis. We've talked about that, and they're still not here. So it's not a next year thing. It's a now thing for that we're planning for next year, and they're still not here. And that's okay. Hopefully they play it back. But
We can only control the option we provide them. Then it's up to them to decide. So anyway, all right.
Hey, Kim, how many actually, because I know, sorry.
Sure.
No, good.
How many quick one. So when we used to do CNI, we used to have a lot of administrators or a lot of directors in there. During your meetings, have the, the humanities director, Gwen Lauder and all the different folks. And we used to sort of deep dive a lot further into it. Were they present in most of the meetings or not, or it just depends?
Some not. It depends on what's being presented. So like this November one, we had a lot of administrators because they were presenting new proposals going on. So it kind of just depends on what's on the agenda.
All right, Mr. Lebecci, the communications chair.
Thank you very much. Communications committee met, I believe 2 weeks ago or about 3 weeks ago. And just kind of updated them on more of an announcement, which I'm very excited about to be involved with, myself, along with TJ Fletcher, Anna Marina Ackerson, and the Holmdel football touchdown club. We are running a fundraiser to fix and redo the entire high school gym, which is something that is very, very needed to have. If you've been, yes, excuse me,
The weight room.
gym. When I say gym, I think of, yes, weight room. Sorry.
No, that's good.
You're thinking.
Yeah, so I have to be clear about that because the gym is very different, obviously, than the weight room. So yes, it's the high school weight room. Thank you for the correction. Like I said, if you've been in there before, you know that it's a little bit dated, and that's, being nice, I think. And I think that especially all of the amazing achievements that all of the teams in Holmdel have achieved this year, not obviously the football team. Awesome. Thank you guys. And everybody else, every other sport. They really deserve an amazing facility to work out in and be able to develop themselves physically. So that being said, we have raised just over $60,000 so far. And I believe we're figuring out to finalize our goal. Our goal before we actually even put it out to the public, which is right now, this is the announcement to the public, is probably going to be around $120,000 to $130,000 goal, which we're halfway there already, which is pretty amazing. So I'm really confident we're going to be able to put something together that everybody could be very proud of, especially if you contribute to it. We're going to be having a lot of different opportunities for sponsorships and being able to immortalize your name or your family's name in that center, in the weight room. And, just something to really be proud of, really just give something back to the kids for giving all their efforts to us in their sport endeavors. So I'm really excited about it. There's a lot more to be coming about in regards to information and how to donate and sponsorship levels and so on. Please feel free to reach out to me directly at my alebecci@holmdelschools.org email. I'm happy to fill you in on anything if anybody in the public.
How do people donate?
Excuse me?
How do people donate?
That's going to be going out probably within the next few days.
Okay.
And going to be disseminated to as much of the public as we possibly can, along with the different sports organizations within the school. But it's, something really needed an update, and we have a really good grasp on how we're going to get it done and make it look like something that we could all be proud of. So very excited.
You reach out.
Parent Square, right?
Parent Square is going to be one of those tools that we use to get that information out. Yes.
You reach out to Schwarzenegger.
Yes, me and Arnold, we've been having talks.
He would be into something.
He said
like
he was
this.
going to be able to come and maybe show us a thing or two on lifting, and we're working that out.
Well, Anthony, I
heard
say,
that the biggest sponsor actually gets a dinner with him. And
oh, that's what marketing.
personal training with Arnold.
Well, look, Anthony, I appreciate the passion you put into being the communications chair and the hard work. You got a lot done this year.
Thank you.
A lot got put out there, and continue to enhance the communication and transparency to the community.
I certainly will try.
I appreciate it.
And this is great, because I don't know if we've ever touched that weight room. I can't even recall. I know the kids have used it. I know Iron House is number 39 on the agenda, which I'll have a question why they're only 6 months. I don't know if that's a budget thing, but the time frame is in the spring or no?
We
yet?
hope to listen.
Is it just equipment, or you're not really expanding the footprint in there?
No expansion of the footprint whatsoever, but we're updating everything from the floor to all of the equipment, where we're going to color, hopefully we have logos on all of the weights and just, beautiful, something to, really nice to look at.
Bringing it
and
25 years.
Proud to go in there.
Yeah.
And kids might want to even go in there on their off time rather than go to other gyms within the area and whatnot. That's how nice I think it's going
And
to
you're
get
not
done.
going into the trainer's room right next door.
No,
It's just sort
no,
of
just in that footprint
That's awesome.
that exists currently, which is more than enough. It's a
huge.
big
It's a
facility.
space,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, but all new equipment. Yep.
And the more we keep the kids
And
in our
a nice
gyms,
facelift as well.
you know, rather than other places, it'd be good. Don't want to overstep here, but I did want to comment, because we're in communications with the Parent Square. I appreciate the, administration and you working to, reach out to the community and take feedback in. And it looks like we're continuing to try to tweak the app and how it works. And, you know, wasn't going to be perfect coming out, but it looks like,
Listen,
future
I don't think any technology rollout in any organization ever just goes swimmingly, you know.
Different
as you
iterations.
expect.
Yeah.
There's so many different facets of things and ways to make people understand things and things that you have to tweak that are always going to happen. And I think we have a lot less to do than probably would be expected, especially with our help of the gentleman over here, Carlos and Steve. And ultimately, I think it's really, you know, as time goes on, it's just going to be one of those things that we can't live without.
Yeah.
So
And thank you to our crew over here, Carl.
even if
Lee,
Kim
and Matt,
complains about it all the time.
for working with us. And let's not forget that website upgrade, which every time I log on, I think is awesome. It's phenomenal. It's got energy to it. It's got movement. All right,
I'm
Raymond.
not done yet. Sorry.
Okay.
I wanted just to go back to the weight room. I just want to, because I'm not sure that it was clear, but this is being, right, spearheaded by the Holmdel Football Touchdown Club, Holmdel Touchdown Club, which is, right? Like that's who's spearheading
Correct.
it, which is our
Yes.
high school organization
Not
for dance,
us.
cheer, and football.
Correct.
Right? So it's our high school organization.
Yeah.
And just for parents and just to, in case people didn't know, that other sports other than, even though it's being run by the Holmdel Touchdown Club, all sports are open to use the weight room and all students
Yeah,
where
you mentioned that.
if
yeah.
anybody has kids that are looking to do option 2 that don't have necessarily, like option 2 is where you can, if you want to take an additional course. So like my daughter wanted to take an extra science, she's option 2'd out of gym to open up her schedule. When she is not doing running track, like in the fall, she goes to the weight room and the trainer is there and signs off on her hours that she's there, and it meets the option 2 requirement.
Yes.
So it's open to not only athletes, even it is open to any student that, you know, perhaps wants to be able to take an extra science and wants to option 2,
Yes.
they're able to use the weight room.
And we look forward to your contribution
Perhaps, we'll see.
since she utilizes it. So
I appreciate the giving.
How much can I
exposure.
put you down for right now?
Let's put everybody on the spot. Hey, listen, when the fire chief came here, he must have brought in about $750 in donations that night with the bricks.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm scared to ask Raymond about the buildings and ground.
We didn't meet this week, or this month, but I will be sending an email out just to find out what projects are on, you know, for 2026 repairs, maintenance stuff, things along those lines. But we didn't get a chance to meet this month. It was partially my fault because it's too late now, because we don't have that much time left, but we'll pick it up again in January.
Raymond, I appreciate you handling buildings and grounds. As far as I've seen over the last year, you've been very genuine about wanting to make an impact, and you've certainly been putting in the time. And when you've been here, like you've been adding to make an impact. So appreciate your efforts.
Well, it's
You've also been able to kind of compile structural things that, you know, at some point you have to get done.
well,
Gotta
we
figure out a
have,
way to do it.
like you said, we have great staff here who are on top of the building, and they're doing their best to keep it maintained. So
Not an easy task.
nope.
No, thanks for your efforts. Budget,
BNF,
DNF?
I provided an update in November meeting. We haven't met since. We're going to wait until January. We've been in discussions, but haven't had an official meeting. You're welcome.
Well, I appreciate your efforts as well. I think this is the earliest the budget and finance team has ever gotten together to just try to continue to compile the data around our schools and navigate the public schools kind of financial crisis that's going on. And your efforts definitely did not go unnoticed. And people don't see the behind the scenes work that chairmans for committees do and the hours that they put in. And I do. And I'm grateful for all the chairs, Kim, Allison, Raymond, Anthony, and I guess John and Jeff this year that handled those roles, and you handled them well, and really proud that you took those on. So I thank you for the community. Thanks. All right, old business. We're going to start with the proposed 2026-27 school calendar.
Thank you, President Damari. So as the board knows, we started our conversations about this, I believe in October. So we did put the survey out. And we did receive feedback from a handful of parents. And really one piece of feedback that was pretty consistent in all of those emails was this, really talking about starting school for students before Labor Day. Is there a way that we could modify that? And do we really need the week off in November? And so to honor that feedback, I've brought two different versions for the board's consideration. So there's the original version, which has us, the students starting the Thursday and Friday before Labor Day, with the full week off of teachers' convention. The second version simply, teachers would come in on the Wednesday and Thursday before Labor Day for the 2 staff development days. Students would start on the 7th, and we just recoup those 2 days by being in school the week of teachers' convention on Monday and Wednesday. The school district remains closed on Tuesday for Election Day. And the only other real change is that at Columbus Day, which was previously a closure for students and staff, would just be a closure for students. Staff would be in for a full day of professional development. So those are really the only changes. I thought it were appropriate to bring forward that, because it was and Mr. Reddy had actually mentioned it when we were discussing it last time, that we've never actually started before Labor Day. So just bring it forward for public discussion amongst the board as to what your thoughts on that and which calendar you think is makes the most sense. Happy to answer any questions or provide additional feedback.
Just quick, as I'm looking at this, I was just curious. The NJEA convention, that's off the 5th and 6th.
Yes.
Okay, so the 3rd is the election day.
3rd is election.
So 2 days off for the convention, right? That happens every year?
That happens every
Okay.
year.
How long has that been going on for?
Forever.
Forever.
It's
Okay.
mandated. They
Okay.
can't be open, right? Or I don't know.
I'm just curious of the history.
Well, I think it's a case of if, teachers were to attend, you'd have nobody to teach.
All right, let's go around the room here. I see Kim's got the mic on and get some feedback on the two versions.
I don't know, few years back, my district we start September 1. Like, I don't see a problem with it. I actually, in looking at how choppy the November week becomes, I think, generally as a parent, that this is what I'm thinking, is that if I'm going to take the week in November, I'm taking it anyway when there's the Monday and the Wednesday, and I'm pulling out of 2 schools. And then as an educator, I'm like, well, when would I rather the parents pull out the first day or 2 of school, which I think 99% of the students are going to be in anyway, even if we start September 1, versus, really missing good content for November 2nd and 4th if they pull out. Like, I think we're in the heart of the school year and marking period 1 at that point, maybe even towards the end of marking period 1.
Sure.
So I think I'm all about the original version.
Okay.
And especially if down the line, at some point, we know that we're going to have to be doing like summer construction on some of the buildings, you're going to end up having to start September 1 then, like whenever that is, so that you can get out early that year or whatever, like we're making adjustments as needed. And I just love having for the students and the continuity and being closed on election day. I will say I actually got a text or 2 with some video of because now recess is happening at SATS, which is a voting area. Like, there was kids running across the parking lot, going back and forth and whatever. And it was kind of like, are we really?
We're closed on both versions for election day. right?
Right, but
Yes.
historically, we've been open, so it's not like you can even, I love that we're closed no matter
Same.
what. So it was one thing if it was a 3-day week, and it's another thing now, you're talking only being in on the Monday and the Wednesday, because I'm saying I feel it's necessary to be closed. So 'cause of midterm elections, it's gonna be a good turnout, it should be.
With that being said, I want to thank Dr. Casco and whoever else was involved with proposing multiple times over the years since I've been here to Monmouth County, whoever's responsible, to not have the elections in our schools. So administration has continued to work hard to get the elections out of our schools. We've been told no. So I just want the community to be aware that it's not a misstep. It's out of our control.
Yeah, it's definitely not for a lack of effort. So thank you for that, Dr. Cascone, because I think we all recognize that whole strangers in schools concept. So appreciate your continued efforts year over year since you've been here, I think,
Thank you.
on that front. I completely agree with Kim. I'm for version A for reasons that she said.
Same.
I don't want to repeat.
I'm for
them.
version A as well. I love that fall break. I mean, and we get, yeah.
And I think, I know we did get some feedback, and I think maybe one or two parents said something about having the full week off. Like, I think New York has a full week off every year. So we're kind of the anomaly in that we don't.
Yes, some have November off, like some districts do November off, other districts do. I remember Mike Sockel wanted you guys called it the Sockel stretch. He wanted the February week off. And that's a big New York, Connecticut thing, is the full week in February. But for us, because of the NJEA convention and where election day hits always that week, like, to me, that doesn't make sense. At least for this calendar, might not for the following. It's a year-to-year basis. But
Anybody else? Chris had to step away, so I don't know if there's any more comments on the
I'm
calendar.
probably more B, but just because historically we've never been before Labor Day. And as you can see, no one listens. Once they find out it's gonna be Labor Day, they're gonna freak out. But
it was posted on a bunch of the
but they don't listen until
a bunch of Facebook groups like the Holmdel moms or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it was posted out there. But
it's December 10th. I would expect a lot of MTC till we start before Labor Day. That's gonna be the fact. I know one year we did have the November break off, and for a lot of people, they liked it. A third of your high school is gonna be staying home because they got sports and everything else. But for those juniors that need to do college trips and everything else, it's a valuable week. You go down south, you could go out west, you could go a lot of different things. So I'm B, but I don't have kids in the schools. I think both calendars work. I mean, we have all the holidays covered. We have all the things we need to be covered. So it's almost like tomato for the most part. So I would do B.
Right, anything?
I mean, option A, I like the long blocks. I think when you break it up, for me as a parent, again, this is just me, when there are these, we have to go on vacation, we have to miss a day of school. It's stressful for me. I know the kids are so little, but I know the teachers are preparing for the kids to be there. If we make it easy for everyone's off the week, then it's clearer to people. So I like option A, that we have more.
And when especially in the primary grade, at Village, when you have half the class out, you can't introduce new materials. So now you're behind in curricula. Like, it just becomes a whole thing.
And it does make that week choppy. As much as, November is now going to only have 14 days. If I'm an educator, November stinks. Because especially like that, for 2 weeks in a row, I'm jacked up where I can barely get my work done.
You get momentum and then it stops.
Yeah,
you
and
get
then to
started
come in
again,
Monday and then I'll see you back on Wednesday. And especially since we have the rotating schedule, okay, I'll see you in 2 weeks. So you know what I mean? I mean, there are some, it just stinks.
Right, so that's it.
Okay. Appreciate the feedback, folks. And again, I do want to again publicly acknowledge my assistant Giovanna, who put a lot of time and effort into this, just looking at other school districts, working through the different variations, working with me so I want to thank her again for that.
All right, so we'll move on to the facility use fees and primetime fees. I don't know, Deb, you want to, am I teeing that off to you, Deb, right? Just making sure.
I'll start with the facility use fee schedule. Proposing rates that are a 10% increase over the current year hourly rates, or at a minimum of $5 an hour. So for example, one of our fields, the hourly rate would have been currently $15 an hour. So we're proposing $20 an hour. Multipurpose turf field is currently $125. Our proposal would be $138. So their nominal increases, I don't think we've increased in, I think would be 3 years at this point, if not 4. So we will, if there's no comments or we're in agreement with these rates, we will put them on the December 17th board to approve for the 26-27 school year.
Deb,
Questions?
just to add one point, this is not inclusive of the like HYAA.
That was
flat
gonna be my
fee.
question. So
And the reason
when
that is,
stating that, like, is there where does that number look like for the groups?
yeah, so I think an interesting number, and I'll drive Deb crazy with my back of the envelope math here, but it's in
It's
this
okay.
ballpark, is if, and not that we're suggesting that we would, stating publicly, but if we were charging our town user groups the same rates, the HYAA alone would be $50,000 monthly in revenue. And I think we collect about 14,000.
It's like 12, I think it's 12 and a half for the year.
Yeah, 12,500 for the year. But I do think that there's some opportunities, and I don't want to go into great detail in public at this juncture, for having that be part of our conversations with the town.
Okay, I just want, I shared, because as the HYAA liaison, I guess, kind of, but, I had shared with, Ms. Lepresti that, HYA is like really is trying to figure out their finances, like
Yeah.
we're just switching an accountant firm and we're trying to balance and everything, but, we have a number that we have to raise every, for every $100, it has to, the per player registration fee has to go up a certain amount, right? So it's a domino effect. And so whatever that is, we have to be able to know that number as well, so.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say publicly at this time that, that we be prepared early in the new calendar year as we're thinking about budget to bring that forward. And the intention is not to exponentially spike the charges to the HYAA. But perhaps this becomes a point of conversation with, which is basically a town recreational organization, and our school district's facilities essentially serve as the district's recreational centers, right? So
Right, because the wear and tear, the maintenance.
energy, custodial costs, all that, right? And you could make an argument that last year's contribution by the town committee in maintenance, which coincidentally is about the same amount that the HYAA would pay if they were paying full freight, that there's something to that in terms of maybe defraying some of that cost, some of that difference. So perhaps that's a conversation point on which we can engage.
Yeah,
with the town.
it's funny because some of my conversations with community members, like when we talk about like the turf lights, right? That the TC split the cost, right? But in reality, some of us here felt that we shouldn't be paying at all because our students aren't the ones. Our student athletes here at the complex aren't the ones using it that late, right? So who's using the lights up at the upper turf is really the user groups, right? It's not our student athletes, although they use the field, but they're done before sunset. So,
Typically, yeah.
and it's like, great, you guys put that in, and they helped put that in, but now who's paying the electric for it every year, right? It's not, we as a board of ed are paying for that. And, I'm sure it's not cheap. So,
Who's cleaning it? Who's doing the operations, the maintenance?
right,
The district spent $1.6 million for that turf field.
just
the
the
town-
field and then
Just
plus the
field.
lights.
And we had to take an extra 50% for the lights.
180.
And you drive back there right now, I guarantee you will not find a Holmdel high school team playing on it. You will find a soccer team, a
Right.
whatever team, and it's always used. It's used all the time.
All the
I mean,
time.
I know sitting here for years, I remember the thought was budgets were good. We didn't have the budgets were okay, but HYA was, they were financially strapped. When I know maybe we hit them twice with an increase in all these years. But if you ask me, we've been carrying them for so many years. They beat up the gyms. They're the ones using all our schools. Like Scott said, we're literally the quasi de facto recreation people. And we took the biggest problem of the township off their table that was for 10 years and built a turf field in the back. They didn't build it across farm. They didn't build it at swim club. They built it on our on the district property. So I'm all for, and I know how bad our financials are. It's time they're going to have to pay up. You know, I don't care what it is. I don't care if the township has to pick up all that bill, but we've been, carrying them for so many years just because our budget was good, but it's not good anymore and it hasn't been good. So it's time,
Yeah,
So-
I mean, it's long overdue. It's kind of, it's these facility usage fees, it's the primetime fees, it's the pre-K tuition, all of these things we need to adjust. Everything else adjusts. We can't continue to remain flat when all of our costs continue to go up. I mean, our electricity costs, all of those things. I know my home electricity bill has skyrocketed and it's only getting worse. So these are things that need to be taken into account and we need to adjust for that.
So if there's no objection to the proposed rates here and we're good with this, we'll put this on the agenda for December 17th for approval.
We got to find revenue everywhere we can. If we're doing our job, there's not many options to find revenue for a public school system.
And
Right.
anyone would be hard pressed to find these increases unreasonable, in my opinion.
And Deb, that speaks to the prime time rates too.
Same for the prime time as
Okay.
well.
Primetime rates, if you recall, we increased already for 25, 26. We were originally going much more aggressively for 25, 26, but we pared that back. So the proposed 26, 27 rates are more closely aligned with what we wanted to do for this year. So you see here what your monthly cost would be, and then the daily rates. So the daily rate increase, for example, if you were coming in the AM 3 days a week, it would be an increase of $4.40 a day per student. So again, not. They're
Very reasonable.
reasonable, some might consider it insignificant, but they are reasonable compared to what you would have to pay for private daycare.
I mean, think of what we pay for babysitters when we go out. We spend $25 an hour at this point for probably one child. So paying this for a window of a few hours,
Right.
again, I think we'd be hard pressed to say that it's unreasonable.
Yeah, right. And yeah,
I'm being very generous with that.
and we did consider that if you, for your before or after care, had somebody come into your home, like, how do these rates compare? And this is still cheaper than having somebody come in.
It's a no-brainer.
So,
It's,
yep. So that again also will go on the agenda for December 17th unless there's an objection.
doesn't seem like there's an objection.
Prime time is just Indian Hill and Village, or is it just?
Just Indian Hill. Indian Hill is very small subscription, mostly it's here at Village.
That's what I thought. Okay.
That's the most users.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Thanks, Deb.
Yep.
Thanks for the comments, everybody. Schedule B discussion?
Right. So wanted to dust this conversation off. We had talked about it in closed last time. The board had asked some good questions and asked the administration to do a little bit more due diligence. So we sort of carved this down a bit, and we also presented the information in a way where the board would understand, what the financials were. And so you'll see that at this time we have 3 Schedule Bs. That these are clubs that are currently, these advisors are serving in a volunteer capacity. And we're recommending that these become paid clubs. And then you see in category 2, that's an existing Schedule B in the contract that we're readjusting the stipend amount. And just to refresh memories on that, this isn't the stage manager position is one that's been in the contract for some time, and it started out as really just a high school position, but it's morphed into and really when we say stage management, it's really the person who oversees the site, the sound for all these events, and it's blossomed to 70 plus events, night events district wide. So basically what I did to calculate the revised stipend was just take that maximum number of night events, estimating it at approximately 3 hours per event, and then multiplying that by the contractual non-student contact rate. And that came out to a stipend of $9,072. The original was $7,560. So it's a difference of, what's it, 12. And you can see the clubs that are not currently filled and not running this year. You can see that total is $7,052.50. which is it's a net, it's actually a net savings for the district. Now, you might be looking at some of these clubs that are currently not filled and say, like, we like those clubs. Like, why aren't we running a mock trial? Why aren't we running a high school academic team? And so the answer to that is this does not necessarily mean that these clubs will never run again. But what it does mean is, and I think now that we're into this, is every year we have to be looking at our clubs and set a ceiling for the number of clubs we're going to run and set a ceiling for the amount that we can expend on our Schedule Bs. And so that's an annual process. And it's also an annual process of looking at our clubs and evaluating which ones are running. And quite frankly, that's going to be a process that we're going through as part of the budgeting process. You don't get a ton of savings. You'd have to really carve down the extracurricular offerings for it to represent any kind of a significant savings to the district, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be looking at these annually and not running clubs that are under enrolled. So the 3 clubs that if you want to call them that we're suggesting, they're important clubs, right? We have honor societies in all of our areas. And this is an opportunity to honor and acknowledge our visual and performing arts, and the students who are achieving excellence in those areas. And DECA, amazingly, this school has not had a DECA organization, and it's an outstanding organization for aspiring business leaders. It's I don't know off the top of my head what that acronym stands for, but it's basically it's a business club. So they participate in business competitions, everything from sales presentations to advertising campaigns, to developing business proposals. Then they compete against other students. Matter of fact, we did send students down to Atlantic City last year to participate in state
Is
competition.
this because of a lack of interest or?
That it wasn't running?
Yeah.
For some reason, it just never grew legs here.
So it's not called DECA anymore, apparently.
No,
It's formerly DECA, Distributive Education Clubs of
That's right.
America, but it is now MFHM, which is Marketing, Finance, Hospitality, and Management
okay.
it's through competitive events, hands-on learning, leadership development, fostering skills like public speaking, critical thinking, and entrepreneurship, providing scholarships and networking. So
Yeah.
I don't know, that sounds great.
So we will modify that when this goes to agenda for next week.
I mean, that was a quick that was AI's answer. So just make sure you double check.
I think you're right, by the way, actually, now that you mention it, because DECA is.
You just break the AI
DECA is
policy?
very anachronistic in terms of that title.
I said it with my AI.
You did.
version.
You
I did
did.
qualify it.
Full transparency.
Just as part of, this, and I think that this is great that, was budgeting wise, I would like to just make sure that we have, like, is there, and I really don't know the answer, but clubs that are being, and specifically clubs that are being budgeted and paid for, is there like oversight on those? Like, at like the coaches get like some type of, at the
like
end of
an
the
evaluation.
season, they're evaluated. Is there something happening with the Schedule Bs where we're looking at, they're all meeting relatively the same amount of time? Are they, they have 2 kids in it and,
Yeah.
right?
So one of the things we changed was previously all the clubs and activities were overseen by an assistant principal at the high school. So even in addition to, and particularly when we went to one assistant principal at the high school, and that assistant principal is also overseeing 7 through 12 VPA, it was clear that we couldn't get the kind of hands-on attention that we needed. So what I asked, and this was when Dr. Dakota was here, I said, look at this entire list and whichever clubs logically fit into a department, put those clubs under the supervision of that supervisor, right? So, the school newspaper, that's going to the ELA supervisor. The Business Honor Society goes to the business supervisor. And that really carved down what was left became a manageable number of clubs for either the principal or the assistant principal to oversee. So on an annual basis, they do request meeting information, like when were meetings held, student enrollment, activities, and those kinds of things to assess those on an annual basis. Yeah.
And Scott, that's for the stipend clubs, and there's also other clubs that aren't stipended at point.
Yeah, so
Right.
that's a bit of a bugaboo, right? Because
Right.
we have motivated kids who are there's always a student that's looking to form a club, right? And so on one hand, we don't want to stifle that. But on the other hand, I've been very clear with, particularly with the high school administration, that when students come forward, you have to let them know that there's a deliberative process that goes into whether or not, and really, it's if this comes in, something else has to come out, because we can't, and that's essentially what's happened over the years and why our extracurricular offerings have gotten where they are. And obviously it's an amazing set of offerings, is that anytime we had an idea, it became a probationary club. And then the collective bargaining agreement says that after 4 years of volunteering, it goes into the CBA. So also being clear with people when they take on volunteer roles and say, listen, like, we appreciate you taking on the volunteer role, but understand, like, there's absolutely no guarantee that this will become a formal club. And having those conversations with staff members, particularly in year 2 or 3, and saying, look, it's not likely that this will become a club, or we really like the way this is running and we're going to slide another club out and put this in. So that's all been part of our conversation, because we can't just keep continuing to add paid clubs, and the CBA obliges us to make them formal paid clubs after a certain amount of time.
And I know every year, I don't know what the timing is. I don't know I think it's October. I know they have the club fair.
Yeah.
Then they have, I forget what teacher does it, but the kids have to go in front of a committee or the student advisory board and say, I have a club, the golf club, for instance, which is wildly popular. They started the golf club 2 years ago. So I think it's Guastella, I think, is the golf club advisor. He's not paid. He does it on his own time. He goes to Bell Works, to the simulator. Then I think he even goes to Bel Air when they do 2 or 3 golf events, whatever, a year. But like you said, there's but a lot of clubs that the kids ask about, they have to pass.
Yeah,
they get rejected, and it's.
The student advisory board has tended to be the venue where that's done, but and I'm a big believer in student leadership.
And there is a teacher there too.
There is, but I think that as I've advised the administration, there has to be a process before the process, right? So, before it gets to the SAB, because, certainly the student input is important, but we have financial limitations, so we can't just keep adding clubs,
Because
even if they're worthwhile.
They're adding the ping pong club. They're adding, my son was on the ultimate frisbee club. I was like, wait, that's a club? I was like, so there's a lot that,
And I like those sports clubs because, I do, because I think, I think what happens is we have a lot of kids that participate in athletics before they get to high school. And then the nature of athletics changes, becomes more competitive. And we have a lot of kids who participate in athletics, and then they lose opportunities. Most of the rec programs don't advance into high school. Most of the club teams disband when kids get to high school because of numbers. So, I like those clubs because they give kids athletic outlets who might not necessarily be varsity level athletes. So, we have a lot of great opportunities. It just becomes a matter of really separating the wheat from the chaff, and because we just can't continue to fund, an unlimited amount of clubs, as we
And
do.
not every student's into organized sports. They want to get out and play something physical, but they're not into the organization.
Right.
If a student wants to open up a club, do they need to come with some sort of a petition with a certain amount of interest?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's part of it.
There's a
the,
process and a sponsor,
And a
like,
sponsor.
and a sponsor. from-
Sponsors a teacher?
Yeah,
Yes.
a staff
Okay.
member.
How many,
Staff member.
how many students they need to pull together to pitch this
I
idea?
don't think there's anything like codified in policy, but I would say you need to have at least a dozen students. Who
Yeah,
are- and it-
well,
yeah.
going forward, in the likelihood that we may have to pull back, the more prerequisite would increase our percentage of having more efficiency in the clubs that we have,
Agreed.
more participation.
Chris, you have to have a whole, business plan and a whole
Yeah.
model, and, go in front of the whole board, and, there are some steps to it. And maybe
Okay.
it's something where you go, okay, hey, how many are invited or how many are interested? And then, say, okay, we're only doing 3 a year, or we cap it at something, or whatever it is.
Sure. All right, thanks. Any other comments on the Schedule B?
So, well, it's adjacent to Schedule B, which is, so I guess, and this is for Ms. Donnelly, I guess there's some stuff going on right now that with funds for the Schedule Bs, as they're raising money and they want to be able to spend money and send stuff off, we don't want that happening right now, or something. I'm hearing some things from the middle school that, you don't want them doing a bake sale anymore and like raising those funds, but then they have to go somewhere. Like it's getting tricky in
The issue is not the ability to raise the funds, it's commingling the funds with district. accounts.
yes, no,
So
yes.
I'm working with Patty DeSaro to explore ways that we can do that and stay compliant.
So I will say that whatever's like, I don't know exactly what's going on, but I was talking, like, I have a student, like my school, because I do my PBIS and we raise, like, we just did a tie-dye fundraiser and I raised $550 and I had it in cash. And I handed it over to the BA's office and it's for my ECLC student activities. But like, so I have my own separate account and I can do whatever I want with that account. And it is a separate account.
But the issue is not about raising the fund and depositing it in student activities for the benefit of the students. It's raising the funds and donating them to third parties. That's where the commingling of funds takes place. And that's what we're exploring further.
So it's using it as a donation, or does it matter if it's paying for something?
Donating it to a third party. Student activities is money raised by the students for the benefit of the students.
Okay, so it's fine if it's you, so that's what it, so like I'm using my $550 is gonna pay the bubble guy, like literally the bubble guy to
Right.
come and like it's an assembly at the
Great.
school.
Right, it's
So
benefiting
like,
the students, they raise the money for that purpose.
so that's what it is. So that's the difference. It's donating to an, okay.
Let's move on to the referendum update, Dr. Casco.
So, we had an opportunity to administratively to sort of, process the conversation we had at the last board meeting. I think we all, board members and administration alike, felt uncomfortable on some level, right? We understood that this referendum is when it moves forward is going to represent a significant ask from the community. And I think we were moving forward in an aggressive timeline because, we were really having our timeline being driven by this solar lease, right? But after thinking about it, to me, we cannot embark, and this is just my opinion as the superintendent, we cannot embark on this process. We need to get started in the right way. And what do I mean by that? One, obviously, in a month's time, we're going to have a newly constituted board. And I think it's important for, that newly constituted board to have an opportunity to really be well informed and briefed, right? But as importantly is to provide at least some time for us to begin to educate the community, to provide opportunities for public input, whether that's through public town halls and surveys, because all of that ultimately, I think, is going to contribute potentially to its success when we ultimately go out. So we really took a look at, let's look at this solar piece, right? Does the tail need to wag the dog with this solar piece? And after exploring some things, and we're not going to go into great detail on it tonight, but really what we're recommending is pushing the prospective start to construction from the summer of 2028 to the summer of 2029, right? Now we did initially explore. We are in the process of still understanding the extent to which we could extend this lease. And so we haven't, with our current vendor, what it looks like presently, though we're not 100% sure on this, we have our architects looking into it a bit more. What it looks like now is that we would not simply be able to renew that lease with the current vendor. Rather, we would have to go out to bid, which makes no sense because the current vendor would be able to offer a significantly reduced price just by virtue of the fact that they already have the infrastructure in place. So it's not going to be a competitive bid process because a new vendor would not be able to offer nearly as a competitive price as the incumbent. Nevertheless, it would appear that the procurement laws would require us to do that. But I think we have to become comfortable with the fact that there may be a period of time during which the solar panels would be removed and we'd be operating without solar panels. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, how are we going to manage the lost revenue, the lost savings that come with that solar plan? We also are the solar panels. We also are currently looking at the possibility of, with the same vendor, establishing a community solar program, which essentially, and I'll ask Deb if I'm not doing this justice, which essentially leases, space on our grounds essentially to install solar panels, which then they essentially pay us to lease our land to Deb. Am I doing that right? Okay. So now that project would also have to go online around prior to, or at least be contracted prior to the expiration of the tax incentives. So ideally what would happen is solar panels would be pulled off, right? Our process would move forward according to the timeline, and we'd install these other panels, which would offset the increased expenses with the loss of the solar panels on the roof. So it would be sort of net, right? And that would give us a more comfortable timeline to, again, what I've already discussed about community inclusion, board education, and then obviously all the other pieces that come with that. So the prospective timeline would be, as opposed to saying to the board, we need to contract Spiesel on the 17th of December, which I think we all agreed felt a little bit hasty, right, when considering the amount. And instead, we'd be looking to have that motion on the agenda in March of 2026. So we're only really delaying the prospective approval of Spiesel's work to March 2026, but it gives us essentially 3 months to do some of that advanced prep work. We still have some things. We're still waiting for some feedback from our architects on exactly what they're like, an estimate of what the projected loss of savings would be when the solar panels come off, as well as a projected revenue generated and some details, obviously, on that community solar project. Obviously, there would be full disclosure and presentation to the board on what that would involve to ensure that the board was comfortable with it. But in essence, all this amounts to the fact that we're setting back the timeline to give us a little bit more time on the front end to make sure we get this thing off to the right start. I'll pause there for any questions.
This leasing of land, should that come to fruition, is that a temporary thing? I guess it
would be a
we
lease.
Go into it.
Yeah,
Okay.
It would be there would be a length of the lease. So, 15.
Max of 15 years, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are we talking about? Or are we not even there yet in terms of?
There, Ken is looking to identify locations, so they could be.
Well, we can't do the roof.
That's where we're taking it off.
That's where we take them off. Yeah. It was.
No, I mean, that wouldn't be an option for this purpose, because again, it has to be operational by December of 27. So it could be a field, it could be the carport
The
canopies.
parking, see, I'm all about.
Yeah, because right in
Parking lot,
Marlboro
but
too.
parking
I
Has
love
it,
that.
has it, like there's.
Marlboro has it?
Like a lot of universities have it. I'm all about the parking.
Yeah. So those obviously that, if we were to,
That is
entertain
nice
this.
though.
And any space
Like,
needs
that's
to
our
be a
main
minimum
entrance.
of,
Sorry.
8 to 10,000 square feet per parcel.
Just think about the less snow removal that has to be done because it's covered.
All that would be.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly.
All that would be.
Yeah.
No, it melts on the panels.
Right. But Scott, a few years ago,
No, in
Yeah.
that area. Yeah, yeah.
Whatever's covered.
so this is sort of my world, what I do for Honeywell. So for years, we do ESIP. ESIP is basically energy savings improvement projects. So years ago, we did one, we basically did a self one where we had, I think Kevin Senabrino from Middletown or whatever, he sort of ran it, and we did boilers and some other things. Normally, solar is your biggest revenue producer to help do other projects because it's a revenue producer.
Right.
So, and I know this board hasn't really looked into it, but it might be something we want to look as with the newly constituted board in January, is have a energy service provider come in, and there's a bunch of them out there, have them do their little spiel, tell them the situation we're in, and have them run the numbers. Because I would, like you asked, I don't know who asked, but how many years? Generally speaking, it's 10 to 15 years because it can't go past 15 years. And as long as you have a dollar cost positive savings after the end of 15 years, you could put on almost anything you want into it, from parking lots to other things that we might have on the capital improvement list. It's one of the, outside of referendum, it's one of the best and only ways a school can build and fix a lot of things. You go, and we haven't done it for years, so it could be a fresh look. Who knows what we have out there? The timing could be right because we do need to do these things. Because I remember Patrizio sitting in your seat, Deb. He's like, all right, in 2027, 28, that ship's going to come and it's here now. And obviously we could roll the dice and say, okay, we'll be okay with it, but it's better to plan ahead. And these people do come in for free. So it's not like Spiesel where we have to engage them and pay them for their time. These companies build it into their plan and build it into the price that they have. And it's all public. And basically they become a general contractor and we decide what we want to put into it, anything like that. And there's no obligation at all from the district. Would I have Honeywell come in? No. Have every other company come in, and then we could get educated and see if there is an opportunity for us. And if anything, it's their dime and they want to do it because there's less and less schools that have solar opportunities because they've all been done. One thing I guess Spiesel would know this is the SREX, which is basically the money you get back for these solar things. Are the SREX good these days? Like I haven't sold solar in a while.
I remember my previous district, we were selling because we're not, right, we don't own it, so we're. not
Correct.
doing
We're
the
leasing it
sale.
off. Correct.
And the prices were coming down, as of last year, but we are generating 119% of expectation right now
Yeah.
with the panels that we have. So, they're still generating and the leasing company is still maintaining and upgrading.
Right.
The existing, equipment.
And the way it happened here was this conversation actually started with the township. So some energy company came to the township and said, oh, we want to do solar with you. The township didn't have enough array of buildings. So they basically knocked on, Holmdel's door in 2004 or 5, whatever year it was, or a bunch of years ago.
Yeah,
And
those went into operation in 13, 14.
yeah, it was a bunch of years ago, but then because they realized we had the thing, so they made it worked out. So the town bought it to us, and then I don't even think the town did any solar. I don't even think they have any solar in their little complex. So good.
When you remove the solar, which assuming, right, that it's before any project to fix the roof, right? Which is part of the reason that we have to remove and we won't replace on the roof because you need to have a newer roof to put on the roof.
Mhm.
I guess 2 parts is that going to make the leaking roof worse? Like, I don't know how that works. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't make it worse. And the second question is, or, maybe they patch it when they remove, like, I don't know. But, and then if, because the roof wouldn't have been done at that point and we're removing those panels and now we're going to do this other leasing panel thing wherever else, now do we not have to put it on the roof later or is that then another
Yeah, that's a good question.
project for adding more solar to get more money revenue,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't know.
No, it's a great question. So and I don't want to, Mr. Stromson would be better equipped to answer this authoritatively, but I would say is that when those panels are removed, we would have to bring in our roofing contractors that we use for repairs to ensure that any of the screw holes and things of that nature were sealed. I would argue that for that interim period of time, in some ways it would make it easier for us because the solar panels are a real problem. Like when we're trying to assess leaks, it's hard to know, or is it coming in under the bracket and things of that. And then of course, doing the repairs are more difficult because you're working around these solar panels. So yes, they would do some patching and sealing. And then I would argue that fixing them in the interim or patching the interim would actually be easier. Now, as far as the other piece goes, I mean, I think that's to some extent that's based upon, what our projected revenues would be through this community solar project. That I'm just going to spitball and I don't have it, but let's say that that's neutral, right? That it's essentially it offsets what we're losing. If we were going to do new solar on the roof, that would represent additional savings, but that also would then have to be built in, correct me if I'm wrong, Deb, would have to be built into the cost of the referendum.
No.
No.
New solar, no, that is not referendum eligible.
Okay.
And if you're leasing, it's not necessarily a cost to the district, right? The leasing company would pay for the equipment, right? And then we are sharing that revenue generation.
The only difference would be that the cost most likely would be higher because it would no longer be eligible for the tax incentives.
Right, so.
We just don't know
so
exactly what.
benefit would be decreased.
But if knowing going into a referendum that we would also want to put
New
solar
panels.
on top, right? Aren't there incentives sometimes with the solar companies that
Yeah.
they pay for part of the roof?
Yeah, we did discuss that with the current company, but they would have to have some sort of agreement in place to come up with those numbers and
Okay.
whatnot. So yes, there's always a possibility of that, but without an agreement and. we
Right, no,
couldn't
yeah, no,
fathom what those
100%. No,
numbers-
I understand, but I'm just saying, so just if we go through the community leasing wherever, right? We can still even therefore generate, even with the referendum, since that's further down the line, we can still even have more savings in a secondary thing
Yeah.
with solar panels.
So there's a
So-
difference between the two programs, right? So the solar like we have on our roof now, right, is generating energy, right? And then we're getting that savings in our bills. The community program generates this electricity. We get a 20% discount on our electric bill, from what I'm understanding, right? This is all top level. But 59% of that generation stays within the community for people who can't afford their electric bills, right? And it goes to those bills. So you're also helping like your community members at the same time, right? So
Kim, it's probably the number one thing on an ESIP program, and they do it from High Point all the way down to Atlantic City. It's almost like these.
I love that you know exactly
Yeah,
what that's all.
these energy companies
Great.
are hunting for it because it helps drive savings and other things. And you can make some really big projects if you do a lot of solar. It's just what you can't find anymore is sites that need to do it. So what happens is you do solar phase 2. Okay, the roof is now 15 years old. I know I have to go grab it. When those things come off it, now is the time to reassess it. Do I want to do? Hazlitt years ago got a huge advantage. They were one of the first to the market. So they cleaned up in Hazlitt when they put the for the roofs. So the early actors won when people came later, because that's when every carpenter and electrician were becoming solar experts, and they would put on their side of the car they were a solar company, and then they went out of business when New Jersey had more SRECs than anywhere else in the country. You know, California had more solar because they were a bigger state, but per density or per capita, we had the most. So New Jersey did a really good job on that, and you know, I wish we didn't because there'd be more opportunity, but it could be good for us at this time.
All right, and that's a great explanation for the community on the solar panels. And Scott, I think that's a great move. I appreciate you, putting it out there. And Raymond, I know you played a role in kind of compiling the data. I publicly voiced that I was, fully against doing a referendum, but I do see the urgency of the solar panels. So hopefully take a step back, focus on the solar panels, continue to organize that list of infrastructure needs, and get past some of these bigger ticket items first before you dive back in. That's my recommendation. So thank you. Moving on to budget deficit modeling.
So I want to keep this pretty high level because I think it's important to realize like any of the modeling that we've done is in many ways hypothetical. There are a lot of things that we're just estimating. There's figures that we just don't know and we won't know, like for example, state aid. And I think it's fair to say that when we get into the new year, the period of time between January and the proposal of the not to exceed budget in March, there's going to be a lot of information shared with the community. It's going to be imperative on a weekly basis. And I think it's safe to say that both in our subcommittee meetings as well as our committee, the whole meetings, the budget is going to be central to that agenda so that we can be transparent and really educate our community on the channels, on the process rather. So I think it's important to realize that Holmdel, like many school districts, have been suffering a death by 1,000 cuts. They've been suffering a death by 1,000 cuts since 2012 when the 2% cap went into place. Now, notwithstanding the fact that school districts have really, including this one, have been operating to some extent with structural deficits for well over a decade, this school district in particular has continued to improve, expand, augment what it does. And it has been doing so while exercising a high degree of financial responsibility. One of the first updates that I'm going to share in the new year is a look back to the presentations that we did in advance of the not to exceed budget last year. And why did we do that? Because as we were talking about our deficits in the court of public opinion, there was a lot being bandied about that the district had a history of financial mismanagement. And I thought it was really important, not only to the current board and administration, but prior boards and administrations to set the record straight. And I put forth a number of really compelling data points from, where our median teacher salary was in the county to what our administrative expenses were, our administrative salaries. And in all cases, they were either at the county average or below the county average. So I will put that data back out because I think it paints a very clear picture that this district has been very financially responsible, even amidst some of these financial challenges somewhat recently within the last 3 or 4 years, 4 or 5 years, really passing 0 and less than 0% budgets. When we look at some of these, the board has raised taxes X number of percentage points over the last several years. Well, part of the reason that is because of those 0% budgets, the district was able to use its bank cap, or it would have lost it in perpetuity, which is what enabled them to go above the board administration to go above the 2%. But it's been a death of a thousand cuts. And some of those cuts have become much deeper in recent times. One that cannot be overstated is the transportation hit that we took mid budget cycle. We went out for bid, we were quoted prices, and the transportation vendors came back after our budget was done and hit us with a $2 million increase. And because of, in part, the financial responsibility of this district was able to absorb a $2 million hit mid budget cycle out of existing fund balance, out of reserves. This district has utilized reserves to balance budgets over the last several years. Why? Why did we do that? To save jobs, right? Now, for the folks that are out there and saying, well, we should have gotten ahead of this. Well, it is hard enough to cut jobs, people, and programs when it's absolutely necessary than to do that when it's not necessary. The final cut, and what one might argue is kind of the death blow, if you will, has been the healthcare, and we've talked about it, right? Talking about a 32% increase when you're already looking at a budget that is already lean. And that is really, I think, what has taken this house of cards and made it fall. So when we look at, the upcoming school year, and we've done some forecasting, and we look at what our projected budget would be with no major cuts, right? So the things that have been discussed publicly, not doing that, right? If there were to be no real concessions at the bargaining table, right? You'd be looking at in order for us to generate that kind of revenue, you'd be looking at approximately almost a 15% tax increase. Okay. Now, for some folks that talk about, well, they've done it in other districts, right? Well, that's true. But in order to be able to do that, you have to have been labeled by the state as under adequacy, meaning that you as a school district are not contributing your fair share to the overall budget. We are not in that case. In fact, we have been on, if you're familiar with the legislation S2, we've been on the better side of S2 up until last year when we lost money. But prior to that, for the 3 years prior to that, when the funding formula was implemented, previously put under moratorium by Governor Corzine and activated by Governor Murphy, we were on the receiving end of that. Why? Because our district had been financially responsible and was actually contributing more than its fair share, which is why we got more aid from the state, right? So we can't go to 15% like some of these districts can if they're under adequacy. Now, we can go to 15%, but the only way to really do that, because when you look at what we can actually levy in a percentage, approximately, again, an estimate, because this includes the healthcare waiver, which we don't know exactly what that is. We won't know yet. But that essentially, we can go up to just with 2% and with the healthcare waiver, that'll bring us to approximately 3.91%, right? Which is a gap of, over 11%, right? So how do we generate 11%? Now, the only other way like a district like ours can do that is through second questions, which in our case, if we were talking about a second question worth approximately 2% or approximately $1.3 million, you're talking about 5 second questions. And of course, we know that while you can go out for that second question again at a subsequent date, you can't build that into your operational budget without doing that, right? So that just goes to show you without making any kind of significant cuts. Now, I'm not going into detail on what those prospective cuts are. Those are internal conversations for now. They will become external conversations in time. But, we've identified through various things that we could probably find somewhere in the neighborhood of $4.5 million to $5 million, right? Which would then put us at an approximate deficit of just under $3 million. That's pulling all the major levers we can. And by the way, that $4.5 million does not touch staff, right? So when you look at that $2.9 million, you're talking about people and programs, period, right? So that is essentially the overall picture of what we're looking at in terms of what we can levy, what our expenses are going to be, and you cannot overestimate the impact of that healthcare increase. And mind you, we are also incurring that healthcare increase as of February 1, which represents, if you've been paying attention, about $1 million of additional expenses that were not budgeted. And we are in far, not nearly in a good shape to absorb $1 million hit mid-budget cycle as we were several years ago to make it $2 million. And we'll figure it out, but it just makes us that much more lean and enables to carry over that much less fund balance to the next year. So that's sort of a high level without going into too much detail, is that would not be appropriate this time. It will be in time, sooner rather than later in the new year. That's sort of high level where we are.
Scott, I appreciate everything you just said. For somebody who's been sitting here for 3 years and involved heavily with diving deep into, board members come on and the big chat is, I'm going to fix the budget. People want to fix the budget, right? And you do get that narrative that there's a mismanagement there. And then you get on the board and you realize, wow, we're actually operating efficiently, and that's how we're getting through this. And then you see uncontrollable, unsustainable expenses, transportation, benefits, which we've been communicating to the community. We've got a budget and finance team that's operated like no other budget and finance team on the board, digging in, compiling data, putting the facts out there. And for the sake of supporting my administration team, our administration team as a community, Dr. Cascone for 3.5 years, Debbie joined about 1.5 years ago, right? And took over 1 year. Congrats, Deb. It's been a great year. Coming in at a time like this, right? And prior administrator, it is disheartening to, and also to note a board of ed and an administration that has brought the community in and said, here are the facts, let's work as a community. And I get it. Facts are uncomfortable to some people, but they're the facts. So you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's disheartening to have seen community members, ones that have never showed into a board of ed meeting, never reached out to the administration or board asking questions, but create false narratives for ulterior motives is very unfortunate. So I hope as a board administration, you continue to put things out to the community, and hope that certain community members have a respect level. And if you do have a question or concern, Dr. Cascone and the board has been ultra responsive to the community. So as board president, I say kudos to the administration team, and I appreciate all the hard work you've done. And what was our number one goal, Scott, over these last 3 years? Retain as many teachers and staff as possible. And we've done our best and spent a lot of hours trying to make that happen. And hopefully that can continue to happen, and we can continue our positive trajectory. So thank you for the updates so the community understands that a bit better. Any other comments on that? Okay.
Can I just say that it's part of what you said, some of the things that I've heard, that people were kind of annoyed that we did the 0%. I think I did one of maybe the 0% I was here for, that the 0% were done. Like that wasn't us being fiscally responsible, and had we not done that and just done the 2% at that time twice, that we wouldn't be in the state that we are. I just want to, because I didn't understand bank cap, but just for the relative, very high level understanding of it, is basically we didn't need it then. And the beauty of bank cap is it lets you go backwards and say, I didn't raise it then, but I'm going to raise it now. So we've now used all of our bank cap over the past couple of years when we've raised over the 2% without having to go to question, which means that we are operating with, if we had gone to the 2% max those 2 other years, we would have been in the exact same budgetary situation that we are right now. So I just kind of wanted to clarify that, because I've heard that if we hadn't done that at the time, we didn't need it. We needed it when we needed it over the past couple of years. That's why we were at 4% or just over, or whatever it was, with the waivers and whatnot. But so in the end, we're ultimately at the budget exactly where we would have been right now had we done the maximum increase at the time. So just so that everyone kind of understands that we're ultimately in the same exact position, whether it was 0% then.
Exactly right. It just would have created, as opposed to, having sort of a choppy line graph of tax increases, it just would have been a flat
It would have
line.
been more gradual rather than the bigger hits, but it is what it is because we're in the same spot.
That's also a very similar conversation that people like to mention about the busing, right? They say, oh, well, why'd we get rid of our buses? But yet we still would be in a bad scenario if we had our own buses to this date, regardless of what's going on with busing. It's still this, it's kind of like a catch-22, all of this stuff. It's really unfortunate.
And Deb, but those bank cap rules still in effect for maintenance reserve and capital reserve where it's 3 years?
I'm sorry.
That are the state mandates where you can't, you could keep bank cap 3 years, right? And it rolls off. Is
Right,
that
yeah,
still?
we have nothing remaining.
No, I know this,
Yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
just saying, again, a reason to use it because you basically lose it if you don't use it.
Right. Expired.
And it was there for when they changed it to 2%. So if your boiler blows up, you might, if you were a smart financial, district or you're able to, you had some sort of leverage where instead of sending kids home or whatever. So I mean,
Right. So like maybe one of the years we did raise, it was like 1.9%, that like it left us like a couple $100,000. Like that's all we needed was the 1.9. But then if something happened, you were able to claw back that extra
Right.
0.01.
For years, we kept
needed.
contributing to bank cap in case of a rainy day or a bad situation, which we've had the last 2 years. And thank God we had it because who knows what happens if we don't have that money that we.
We would have there would have been more lost.
There would have been a lot more. Exactly.
I mean, that's
So
what it would have been.
we were
We've been able to
grateful
minimize
to
that.
have it.
But either way, we're at the same exact spot where we would have been however we got here, just
Yep.
got here different paths.
It's a valid perspective. All right, let's, memorandum, Monmouth County Superintendent's Roundtable.
Yeah, so this is on the agenda for approval on the 17th. So Dr. Ford at the County VOTEC was quarterbacking an effort, interagency effort to develop a memorandum of agreement for school districts in Monmouth County to share resources in the event of like large scale school crises. For example, if you need to do a reunification, for example, that it enables school districts to share transportation resources, share facility resources, share personnel, security personnel, counseling personnel. And so the memorandum of agreement was reviewed by the VOTEC's attorney. They had encouraged us to have our own attorney through, which Kyle did, Mr. Trent did. And so really it just gives us additional options in the event that we needed to call upon other school districts for support. It gives us sort of the legal duck and cover to do that. So that's all this is. It's a security MOA between the Monmouth County school districts.
Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
Review of agenda items. So next Wednesday will be the last meeting of the year, December 17th. We're going to be welcoming in our Vietnam veterans. I mean, this crew is phenomenal. They've been in Indian Hill SATs many years in a row. I hear it's, I've attended, but I hear from the school that it's one of the best days there, and you could see how engaged the students are. And it's an unbelievable history lesson that we should never forget to teach the students. So we're excited to recognize these fine men and women. We also are going to be recognizing the boys varsity football team and the pep band. And we have cheerleaders coming too, right, Scott?
Say again?
Cheerleaders? Yeah.
Yep. So
Yeah, the whole team. Cheerleaders, pep band, football, who have
cheer, dance, pep band, football team will be recognizing the leadership of the various parent organizations as well. We're not recognizing. We'll call the cheerleaders and the dancing, the pep band to stand and be recognized, and then we will be recognizing the leadership groups because they put so much time in to supporting the various teams.
the way they bring the community together, all of them. It's phenomenal, especially this year. Obviously, it was an exciting year. So we're happy to recognize them. And
We're at the auditorium, right?
Yes.
we'll be in the, yeah.
Just making sure,
we
sure.
might be able to fit in here.
Everybody that's listening now.
Any questions about the agenda? Are we even allowed to talk anymore?
So technically you've lost a quorum, but you're not taking any action. So it's essentially just a
Okay.
continuation of
Okay.
a non-board meeting.
Right.
Present. No, she's not there?
All right. Well, it
I'm
doesn't
still here,
matter.
yeah.
Never mind, you're good.
Yeah.
So, Tariq, any questions on the agenda?
No, no.
All right, let's go with central office updates, which is on the attachment for anybody here tonight to high level stuff. Just to start, not to steal your thunder, Scott, but again, kudos to Indian Hill and Ms. Atkinson. I mean, this Entrepreneurs Club is a huge hit. Second year over at Bell Works, I think 60, 70 stations and businesses that were up, and I mean, wow, this has just been amazing. So
Thank goodness they take Venmo because I was out of cash
Yeah.
pretty quickly.
yeah, no,
And
no,
I brought a lot of it.
you gotta, these kids are salespeople. And shout out to Bell Works and the team over there. The way they've partnered with the schools and said, hey, we want to invite the schools in here, the community in here. I mean, we've got the transition fair over there. We've got the entrepreneur. They're always willing to work with us. And it's just a benefit to our students and our family. I mean, that's just huge value for us to be able to have events at such an amazing, inspiring, historic building. So kudos to all the young entrepreneurs and the success that they had. Scott, do you want to talk about any high level? I don't want to miss anything here. I know that
Couple things under curriculum instruction. Oh, no, it's art, but that's okay. I'll steal Art's thunder. You don't mind, big fella, do you? Oh, okay. So just to, Mrs. Tucello had mentioned it before about the patient technician course, and Miss Davis, who oversees our Rutgers program. That's actually started. They had their initial visit to Bayshore. And just to plug the strategic plan, if you look at the strategic plan, it talks about creating more, not only community partnerships, but also it talks about creating additional career and college exploration and pathway exploration. So, I always like to highlight that when we do something and it's connected to our plan. I think that's important, and it's a great opportunity for our students. Let's see if I have anything else here. Oh yeah, look at that. Dr. Tetral nominated for School Librarian of the Year award, and a worthy nomination. And the man is really passionate about his media center. Yeah, he brought it back from the dead. The guy puts time in outside of the school day, summers, really transformed that space through a lot of sweat equity donations. So we wish him well in his nomination, and hopefully brings one home for himself and for Holmdel. So obviously a lot of good things in here. If you recall, I mean, one of the reasons why we started doing these department updates was when we went to committee of the whole, right? Because, typically these things would be covered in our subcommittee meetings and things of that nature. And so it was an opportunity, board members not having that. So this can be something that's revisited, perhaps by in January. Do we want to continue to do these? Or just cover these highlights through our subcommittee meetings and through the subcommittee reports? I think it's something, but I'll turn it over to members of the team, senior team, if there's anything high level that you wanted to highlight with respect to your areas for the board's consideration. Obviously, we'll make these public as we always do. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Thanks, Scott. And
Sure.
I do appreciate the updates. So in new business, I'd like to introduce, and Kim had mentioned this earlier, the community is aware that there was a township committee meeting. There's been a lot of conversations about the pilot for Vonage. Our assessor in Holmdel did a phenomenal presentation, which provided a lot of informative information so people could truly understand what the pilot is. And it was stated that the schools will become whole on that, $240,000. So that was great.
245.
And I think maybe one thing to look at that came up was as that escalates, would that number escalate? So that's maybe conversations that you can continue to have. But I'm thankful to see the TC come through on that. I know there's been a lot of discussion about the Bell Works pilot money, which has been communicated here over the last 3 years. For my opinion, I love the spirit of the community coming together and attending meetings and voicing in a respectful way their perspectives. At the same time, however, as a community member, it's disappointing to really see some misleading narratives that have been put out there. And I know people jump the gun on certain things when, really it just gets a little too heightened. And it's frustrating to see. And I really hope the community and everybody listening in these really sensitive moments next year, the school budgets, schools under a lot of financial constraint. There's going to be a lot of big decisions to make, but go out and get informed. If we could work as a community and actually put the facts out there, I see a lot of non-factual headlines that are being put out there. One article I read said 94% of Holmdel wants to overwhelmingly provide money from the policy of the schools. And that was based off of, if you have to get into the article, 145 person study. We have 17,000 people, very misleading headline. Now, I'm somebody who put in hours to try to help get the school funding. So I support the efforts, but I only support it in a factual way. And I don't know, since August, when there was kind of a chant going around the community, education, no politics, I've actually seen more political posturing in the last 3 months than I've seen since 3 years ago when there was a summer election and the community woke up and preserved our township. So it's really disappointing to see that in our community, from people that aren't showing up and asking questions, getting informed. When everybody got up last night, the one notice thing that I said is everybody thanked the assessor and said, wow, I'm so much more informed now. Well, before you jump the gun and start creating narratives out there for some sort of agenda people may have and creating chaos in our community, go ask questions and show up first. Let's put the facts out there. One thing I'm proud, very proud with this Board of Ed and this administration team for the last 3 years is we put out nothing but the facts. And the reason I'm here today is because I got disappointed with what I saw where the community wasn't being informed and things weren't being factual. We should be working together as a community. I've been saying that since day one, and I've acted on that for 3 years. And I'd like to see that from the rest of my community members and cut out the political BS and work as a team, right? Work as a team. The schools and the township committee should be considered a whole. And that's the way we've communicated with the leaders of the TC and the leadership. I've been leader at the BOE for the last 2 years. With that being said, and I'll open it up to comments if anybody wants to discuss. And again, I look forward to appreciating the community coming together to discuss any sort of funding that may come from the TC. Unfortunately, I do need to address a comment that was made by Committeeman Joe Romano last night during the discussion centered on how pilot revenue could better support our schools. Joe made a comment out of left field that for a guy who sacrificed hours and days from his family and his business to work with our community and help our community out by explaining to the township committee why we need funding and being able to secure, as a board, we secured with the security officers at the end of the year, it's close to $2 million this year. And Committeeman Joe Romano made a comment last night that implied that the BOE and specified leadership was not responsive or willing to collaborate, and that he had been reaching out to the BOE. He's been the BOE liaison for 2 years. And again, just to put the facts out there, in 2024, there was no official outreach. Joe was at one informal meeting with myself, former board president Terrence Wall, who we thank for initiating that road project. We all know here on the board that road project initiated here. He even went out and got visuals so people can see it. And Mayor Rocco Impreveduto, Deputy Mayor Brian Foster at the time, engaged with us and ended up going out for a grant. And that's how we got the project. In 2025, Joe Romano was the BOE liaison again. And I even had to go back and I said, man, we really didn't get much out of him last year. Gee, why is he the BOE liaison again? 2 emails from him this year that were official, one in January, one in February 18th. He had gotten a response from me that stated, hey, we're dealing with our budget at the time. We all know that the first quarter is very busy with the budget. And I'm already engaged with the TC leaders on trying to negotiate some sort of funding. So it was disappointing and disrespectful to see somebody who really hasn't engaged much in 2 years, hasn't shown to one BOE meeting, and to have the disrespect to make that comment. Because not only was it misleading, it was false. So shame on Joe, and hopefully he will take an opportunity at the December 22nd meeting to rectify those comments. And really, we need to no longer tolerate the misleading that goes on in this town. As a 47-year-old adult, it's so shameful to see this from grown people that just try to stoke the fire and just put out whatever they think they want to put out. And it's really called manipulating people. And that's a shame. So let's stick to the facts, everybody. People are responsive on the TC. People are responsive on the BOE. Administration's responsive. Reach out, come to the meetings. If you can't make the meetings, ask questions. And I don't need to go over because we literally have updated the community throughout the last 2 years on all the TC engagement. Scott knows it firsthand. Allison knows it firsthand. Terrence, Pete, people that were leaders and communicated, Kim, all you guys. We put it out to the community every time we met where we were getting with them. And I hope that continues with the board next year and we can continue focusing on strengthening the relationship and working together and not pulling us apart. Okay. So I wish you all well in that, but that was a shameful, misleading comment. And unfortunately, I did need to address that. So thank you for listening. And if anybody has any comments about the Vonage pilot from last night that they want to address, Kim?
So I was there, and it was actually a really great presentation by our tax assessor, Eric A. I don't know what his last name was. I don't remember, although I've spoken to him for my own personal house, but, and it really gave me a better understanding of how it works. And I guess I would like us as a Board of Ed. So basically, I feel like it's a not a play on words, but like, so technically what they're saying is that a pilot has no bearing, no impact on the Board of Ed budget. That, and their assertion and based on their presentation is 100% those words are factual, right? Because if like, and what they talked about was if Vonage, which is currently assessed at 22.5 million and collects approximately $400,000 in taxes, if tomorrow a church bought that, then it would go onto the non-exempt list. And that $400,000 would just have to be now collected and dispersed amongst every other taxpayer in the town. So our budget, and he had very specific numbers, right? So he's like, the school budget is 68 million. So no matter what, you're getting the 68 million. It just matters on how is it distributed in the, collecting that from the community members. So technically, right, they're correct. It doesn't impact the $68 million that is the line item of our total budget. And I think where we need to perhaps better educate perhaps ourselves and the community is there can be though, after that 68 million, and I believe that this is how we kept courtesy busing for this school year is, or maybe it's not, but there can be other external revenue coming in, let's say for the security officers or courtesy busing this year, right, that we're getting that then allows us to keep programs or staff or busing or whatever it is that are beyond that $68 million budget or, so I think that we need to look at it as, okay, it's factual that it's not affecting our downline number because the most that we can raise, right? We're saying that the most that we're allowed to raise taxes is 3.91%, which means that our technical budget is going to be whatever that number is now, 70 whatever million, right? That number, no matter what, is going to be the number. With or without a pilot, it doesn't matter. That's always going to be our budget. So we're looking for external revenue coming in with a shared service agreement or whatever, so that X can be kept. I don't know if that makes sense, what I'm trying to say, because what they're saying is 100% truthful, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that they can't help the school district keep programs or staff or whatever on top of that, right? Right? So like, it does impact us somehow, but it doesn't.
That really is the scenario, right?
Well, you know what?
They have to do it.
It
but
impacts us as
can they?
payers
Yes.
for my personal house, that because they're collecting it as a certain amount, the taxes of my home will go up because somehow that money still has to be generated. So, which is fine. I mean, I'm not even, but I just think we need to kind of spin it where we can everyone can understand that, no, it doesn't necessarily not the line item of what the budget is, but it can still help the school and save certain things. Ms. Donnelly?
Yes.
Can I-
we talked earlier.
Can I
right?
make a statement too?
Of course. Hold on one
Thanks.
sec. I think Deb's going to answer Kim.
Okay.
Sure, I agree with you, and I agree what Eric has said, right? 2% is 2%. It's just the optics of where you're paying to, right? Because the tax rate is higher for the school relative to the county. I'm sorry, the township, because of how the assessed values are spread. That's the difference. So, yeah.
But if the pilot wasn't there, if it was normal taxes, $100, 66 or so goes to us, 30 something goes to the town, few bucks goes to the state or whatever, or the county. That would benefit us massively, correct?
They gave an example last night, like if they put $2 million houses on the strip on Holmdel Road or something.
Yeah, I saw
The circle.
That it just increases the pool and the number
So what
of
are we even-
disbursement. It's not, it's,
Right. The
we
rate
don't
for
get
assessed value.
68% of the revenue from the
Right.
pilot.
But what I'm saying is, again, talk to me like I'm a kindergartner. If they didn't have a pilot, which they have, so the $40 million that have gone, that they revenued from Bell Works, if it was normal tax dollars, this would not help us, or this would help us.
We're still gonna raise 2% of the previous.
I get that.
Right.
But that money that we didn't get, the money that didn't, they got to keep it, payment in lieu of taxes. Like, we didn't get any of that, correct?
Right.
They have right now, they have a surplus. They have a little bucket of coffee that they're filling up while the board over here or the district is basically bleeding out. And, that's why we've been asking for a shared service for a bunch of years. And really, we're getting like piecemeal. Okay, we're gonna get $250,000 from Vonage, which is worth $2 million. Normally, we would be getting more than that. Even if it was a 50-50 split, wouldn't that would be benefiting us, yes?
Can't raise more than 2%.
No, so they're saying we wouldn't.
We wouldn't
like-
get 68%.
Because you can only be given what your budgeted amount is. So like
Right.
this year it's 68 million, we're getting that 68 million. It's just a matter of where we're getting it from. So it's how many people are paying
Right.
that.
What's-
Correct.
What the
And
levy is.
so either way, even if that is taken away, and because it's made a church, like it was actually a really good example. Like, so if it was, if it went as a church exempt, tax exempt, whatever, then we couldn't get it anyway. Then that 400,000 that's currently being, coming in now actually just gets dispersed. We still need the 400,000. So it's still getting dispersed amongst the 17,000 houses that are here or readables. So it was which that was like eye-opening, but I think, but it's also misleading in the
Very
sense
misleading.
that.
They have a $12 million budget every year. It doesn't
Right,
go up
like,
because they have all this money that comes
help us.
into it. They can absolutely help us. And that's what's, that's the white elephant in the room that's been there for 9 years. And, and we get a little bit each year. Hopefully we get next year as well, but we really need something sustainable because this district is going to keep going right down the direction we're going.
I don't disagree if
Yeah.
something could be formalized. However, and we all spoke about this as a board, right? The Holmdel Township School District structure needs to be modernized to navigate the financial crisis that public schools are going to continue to go through. Unless the state comes in and starts offering relief to catch up on the benefits expenses. I mean, the increase I've seen in 3 years for the benefits and pension is out of control. The transportation has been no relief. So you can't ask the township or push for the pilot money to throw it at a problem that we haven't solved yet, because then we'll never solve it. And I was hopeful that some of those problems could be solved through a negotiated contract, but that doesn't seem to have happened. And the conversations will continue, and maybe we'll get to that point when people start realizing that how serious it's been. And I think also the discussion that hopefully will become a little bit more organized is where we've come in the last 10 and 15 years, enrollment going from 3,500 to now 2,700. At the same time, the staff has went up. That doesn't it's a disconnect, but there's reasons why, IEPs have picked up, things of mental health and special ed and all that. And we get that, but those are the types of.
It doesn't account for
Yes, but at first glance, it's like, wow, that's part of our problem, which it is a part. Okay. It's just a matter of how much it is and how deep people are willing to dig, but the structure to try to keep as many people here as possible for our students and our community, it needs to be modernized.
I mean, I've said this, I'm sorry, right?
No,
Go ahead.
go.
I've said this until I'm blue in the face, but we cannot just keep throwing money at problems. There are structural things that need to change to ensure the long-term success of this district. We cannot just keep saying, we're going to pay for it. We can raise our taxes. Throwing money at a problem is not a solution. We're trying to find solutions.
And
And
budgets-
that's really what it boils down to.
And budget season's right around the corner, and you are going to see headline after headline in New Jersey of public schools that are going to suffer. The storm is here. We've been talking about it. Raymond?
It's just, is it worthwhile for us to do our own pilot presentation as, you know, shaded as from the school district point of view?
Well, sync up with the TC also, just to kind of organize. Maybe there's an opportunity to communicate with the assessor and really say, hey, let's work together so we can put this out to the schools community from a different perspective.
About to say that I think I think the demos, we have different demos and people listen to this, and maybe not the TC meeting. We'll be able to reach more people by hosting something here too.
And in the end, let's also be grateful that we had a TC that was engaged and we got something. Because I heard in the very first year or two, and I know Pete has been here for the longest saying, we're not getting anything, but at least we got something. It's a start. Sarika, you want to say something?
Yes, yeah. I wanted to say something about the meeting yesterday. I was there and I made a comment with a disclaimer. And there was a follow-up, and I wanted to just ask Debbie about that as well. So basically, just like everybody else, I said that they have a surplus of some $7 million, I believe, and we have a deficit. And while we appreciated what they did for us this year, it'd be nice to have a consistent chunk come from them. So we know what to expect, maybe a couple of million, for example. So that'll be nice to have that. So at some point, Eric, the tax assessor, made a statement, and I want to ask Debbie this. If not now, you can, tell us later. He said, be careful what you ask for, kind of, if you do get the amount from as a shared pilot money, then you may have reduced state revenue. State gives us some sort of aid, I guess. It may come down and it may not be all that great. It may be better not to do it. So that's what I wanted to email Debbie, but here we are bringing it up. So maybe you can think about that and let us know if that is a fact, or if you would even have an idea, unless we're in that situation. So
Look at our detailed state aid calculation, but I think the aid he's applying that to is not aid that we get in this district. So it might apply to other districts, but I don't think we get that aid that he's referring to.
all
But
right.
I can take a quick.
Okay, that's what. So
Mhm.
then I asked them, are there any other school districts, and is there anybody else who's doing this, who has had pilot money or who actually shared it with the school district? And not at that time, but later they got back to me saying that they think it's Red Bank and Cranberry who probably did that. But then they did have the pilot projects included families where children were going to school, whereas these pilot projects do not involve any children going to school. So, but I said maybe you can use that as an example to see if it did affect the state aid as they suggested. And also I asked them to see if any other, maybe we should see, did any other places in the state even do this. They had pilot money and they actually gave the school district some money. So it'll be a nice precedent if I wanted to see if they did it. So that's the discussion we had.
Sarika, I know I've done some research too, and I believe Newark is one of them, but there are instances across the state.
Terrence.
Cranford did it a few years ago.
Cranford and Red Bank is what I
In
had,
the
yeah.
letter I sent to everyone, there's a link. The letter I sent 2 years ago to the township. There was a resolution from Cranford Township meeting that detailed in depth the entire resolution of Cranford shared service agreement they had.
Right.
So if you just hit
But-
control and hold it down, you'll see the
Right.
link.
But the thing is, they did have school-going children, in that pilot project. So that's the difference there. Yeah.
And Sarika, I believe I heard Mayor Foster say something about the ratables after your comment, right? And I think he followed up with you, right? Did you end up
Yes, yeah.
talking to him? So better understanding. I didn't really understand that either, but I think there was something that.
Listen, it was a great presentation. That's why I went to to be able to see it. And, I also like there was question on whether or not some of the phases were not going to be age restricted, right? And no, they all are age restricted, which was good to hear. So and again, this TC is 100% the ones that have worked with us the most. And, we just hope to try to have that continue, because I don't want anyone to come out looking bad or vice, I'm not, this board, like this township committee, if we can work with them for some long-term solutions, because what we're seeing now is their budget cycle and our budget cycle do not.
And that's a
sync up.
huge problem.
And it's a big.
Huge
issue.
problem.
And so, to have to keep
Not
going back
anybody's
for a
fault.
year. No,
It just creates.
Correct.
We're at a sense of urgency
they're
right
not there yet.
now. We've got to, and also I think one of the challenges for a board, especially when you have new members, is it's like, boom, you just jump in. I know when I joined, it's like you jump in the mix. Next thing you know, it's like, here you go. You're voting on this in 2 months. Here's everything. And
Yeah.
you're just like, huh? And administration takes hours sitting with you going over everything. And you're like, okay, it's pretty black and white. There's not many levers, and 80%, I didn't mean, I said 80% goes to the labor and whatnot. But anyway, I'm a little spirited, a little tired. But Kim, I agree with you so much that it should be a community effort. And I think, even initially when I thought of the money that the town was receiving from BOE, I said, how can you not help the schools? But then also a couple of things that I started recognizing when you start going out and talking to more people than what's in your inner circle. The demographics have no doubt have changed, not only in Holmdel, not only in New Jersey, everywhere. The birth rates are down. We have less kids in the schools. There are more people on fixed income. There's more seniors. There's more less kids in the household. That's great. We still want to keep our schools great, but we also have to keep in mind and be respectful of other communities members' perspectives who aren't as gung-ho to say, let's give the schools money. Then we also have to keep in mind, like, it's not like the township's receiving millions of dollars and like they have it all over a span. I think 4 years ago, 5 years ago, the township with the Bellworks money coming in, I think it was a year ago, they did a presentation, the municipal expenses went up 35%. So now they're trying to pull some of that back. So a lot of that money is already being allocated from expenses that went up. So I think the approach of also respecting their perspective, and then next year, as we've communicated, and we'll continue to communicate and try to help, because I would like to see some sort of engagement, is you have to show a plan. You have to show the township a plan. It can't just be like, we need money. It's got to be a plan. Last year it was, hey, we've got to possibly drop courtesy busing. Community members spoke up. The TC had some things that possibly they would have to prepare for us to fully do that. And maybe the same thing happens this year, but there was a plan in place. That's a big part of putting the presentation together. So I'm with you, Kim, and I support you next year. So anything else?
I'm just going to say one quick
Okay.
thing, kind of piggybacking on your comments about last night, as I was thrown in the mix being part of leadership this year. It did come out of left field. And like Kim has said too, Pete has said, I think we've all experienced the collaboration this year and in the past 2 years that I've been on the board with the township committee. So those comments were extremely hurtful and they were false. I think that if Committeeman Romano in this case isn't aware of that collaboration, I think that speaks more and reflects more on his disengagement rather than the actual reality of the collaboration and the coordination that we've had for the past 2 years.
I didn't even know they had a liaison for us, when I saw it. I was
Yeah.
like, I thought it was either Brian or Kim.
Well, in the situation we were in, it
Whoever,
made sense
but-
for leadership to talk to leadership, no different than when
Right.
you were
Yeah.
presiding my first year in. Hey, you're talking to DJ and trying to make
It's
something
March,
happen.
meet in January. I remember.
How much time do we have? The amount of time that you've already put in to get to that point. And I appreciate you saying that, Allison.
Okay,
One thought
thank
that
you very
really
much
came to
for
mind as
helping
well
me.
is it was a full-on contradiction to the rest of
the
his
only
own
thing is
committee, who's
there's
been
something
publicly
called
stating how much
a
time
password
the board
hint.
has put in to work with
And
the
that
TC.
hint
So just an
was
overall fail on
an
that.
old hint.
And we
That's
can only
why I
control so
couldn't,
much. So,
it was the first password. I think I
Sarika,
made the
anything
exact
else?
same password. The exact same password.
no, I know, but I didn't know if Sarika wanted to finish. And Sarika, you still there?
Yeah, sorry. I was
All right. Anybody else on that? Okay. I appreciate everybody's engagement in the conversations, and it's important. Comments are from the public? All right. State your name. You got 3 minutes. Clock's on. All right, we're sticking to 3 minutes tonight.
Wow.
You don't need a mic.
Hello? Oh, I guess from that factor, that does make sense. Matt Weisfeld, 10 Riverside Lane. Yeah, I always take that open offer. You know, the mic's here I am. What the heck, guys? But that's neither here nor there. First, the two things I wanted to actually get to. First is a positive, another very successful. Well, first I got confused. I went over to the cheerleading thing. I didn't know it was cheerleading. I was like, holy crap, this is the biggest BOE meeting we've ever had. And then I realized we're in here. Well, it is what it is. So first, we had a great run again with the karate program that was very successful. We're about to, I was coming here with all silly stuff, but there's other things to add to now. And we're having another session. I think we're gonna have black belts in like the high school, the way things are going. It keeps on going. It's frankly, I think Village School is getting the most effort because I'm there and the others are not, but it's just really cool. And just, I wanted to throw out there that as an after school thing, it's really turning out. And a piggyback, you mentioned about the clubs and how it's, you started up and everything else. That was one of my first public speaking moments as a student at Holmdel when I stood before the board and had to pitch with a lot less confidence to a karate club. Like, get this kid out of here, but still, that was super cool. Nice little parallel. Here we are. So on the positive side. Also, I wanted to throw a bit of a correction. I went to go do it online, but the post seems to have disappeared. So whatever. I was one of the many that got a little frustrated about the increase about preschool and whatnot until I took a moment and realized it was only $500 and you guys haven't raised it for many, many years. So I kind of wanted to throw out there that anyone who's losing their crap, that's pretty darn good. So just as a bit of I would like it if the kindergartners could ride the bus. That would make my life a lot easier. We'll throw out there is no state thing. I looked into that and all that stuff. And man, my morning would be epically better if kindergartners could get on the bus. But that's a whole other conversation for them. Was that? Yeah, I've got 3 kids and it's, well.
That's correct. Kindergartners do ride the bus.
That's
Yes.
right. I'm sorry. She missed the cutoff. That's like, she's a very big preschooler.
All right, let's keep it moving.
Okay, yeah.
Let's keep it moving.
Okay.
We give you all the time tonight.
Absolutely.
I want to get home.
Yeah. So just wanted to throw out there because a lot of things have been said and everything else. I think everyone's, I don't like pilots. I'm just going to say it. I don't think pilots are good. I might be pissing off people, but again, I have no plans for any stuff. So not a big fan of pilots. And frankly, I do think the school is getting screwed because in reality, it's being assessed at 20 million, whatever it is. I don't have all the numbers, but what about in a couple of years when it's built up and it's a multi-million-dollar amazing property, does it get reassessed? That's not for you guys. I'm just saying that not a big fan. I kind of want to throw out because I really want to see everyone get past COVID. You guys came in, Chris, everybody, you guys came into a horrific situation. I was with you on that. We all
Past COVID. I was past COVID in 2021. What do you mean?
No. I mean, as far as what's going on with our town, as far as how things have been, whether it's TC, whether it's Board of Ed, people going at it, people making things and all that other fun stuff. For me, I'm just going to say it. I just feel like that the whole town has been at odds.
Well, maybe you should talk to the people that you know then, Matt, if you want that to happen.
Well, hey, I mean,
No. Talk to the people that you know if you want that to happen. If you're going to come up here and say it, I'm going to give you the honest response.
Well, I think they're afraid of you guys to be, if we were going to get from that. I'm not. It's again, don't jump on me. I'm just saying I'm here. I come and do it.
Time's up. What do you have to say? What's your point here tonight?
My point is that we have education. We have great education. People come here for that. And if people miss the fact that you are part of the property value, then that's a big problem also. Because everyone who's complaining about, oh, I don't have kids, I don't have that, you guys don't deserve the money. Well, that's why we come here, and that's what raises the value. So just want to throw that out there on a positive side, but it is late, and you guys are all, let's just call it a day, and we'll call it a night. With that being said, guys, thanks for your service and everything else, and have a good one.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Good night. Adjournment?
Yep.
Second.
All right. All eyes. Good night, everybody. We'll see you for the last meeting
Aye.
of the year and look forward to spending time with my board members and administration for the last time.